that criminalizes double nomination from a constituency. Is that not improper? Nigeria want to hear what the court will say regarding that. And these are issues of facts that, yes, they brought in nomination form that, look, as at the time you nominated the vice presidential candidate of your party, who is now the vice president, he was holding the senatorial candidacy of a constituency, and you appointing him without withdrawing that senatorial candidacy amounts to double nomination. And if there is a double nomination by one particular candidate, it invalidates the candidacy of that candidate and also will validate that election.
All right, so, Victor, we'll come back to you in a minute. We'll come back to you in a moment so you can, talk more on some of the issues you're talking about, but we need to take a breather now.
Find the letters and stand a chance to win 1 million naira monthly, or call WOW and win 50,000 naira and loads of airtime daily in the WOW Wash and Win Millions promo.
Thanks for calling Bastion HMO.
Thank you. Now that was my health insurance partner. Yeah, I was just as skeptical as you were about health insurance until I tried Bastion HMO. I got a healthcare plan that's right for me and my family. I have access to top quality healthcare services and facilities. We also get access to over 1,700 hospitals and clinics. Call 0800 Bastion Health, the HMO that puts you in control.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We still have Victor on the line, and we are, of course, driving conversations around the judgment by the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Victor, I'd like that you conclude with your thoughts before I ask you a question on the prayers of the petitioners.
Okay, so I'm just highlighting the issues Nigerians want to hear the court pronouncement on. Nigerians are not confused about what has been presented to the tribunal. Not to have contested the election. 3, if at all, as at the time, the issue of his certificate, whether it was him, because the story was that some part of the certificate from University of Chicago was showing that the name was a female name and all of that. Thirdly, the issue of the nomination of the presidential candidate in the election, that as at the time he appointed Shetima was holding the nomination and the candidacy of a senatorial constituency. So these are, and thirdly, that lastly, which is fourthly, was that the election that took place on the field, there was no correlation between the result that was announced by INEC and the result that showed on the field. And so one of the candidates came to show, for example, that we have a result sheet that that was so bleak, that was not clear. How did they read it? How did they tabulate it to have gotten to a figure that result was announced? The other candidate also said that, look, I won in certain states. My vote was repressed. My vote was taken and given to one other person based on facts. So the court is, the Nigerians are waiting for the court to look at those issues and make a pronouncement on them. That is why the expectations are high.
All right, Victor, let's look at the prayers of the petitioners. It's very crystal clear. What they want is declare them the winner of the poll or order a fresh election from which President Tinubu will be barred. Now, after the tribunal judgment, without knowing where the pendulum will swing to, what next?
Now, after this pronouncement by this is the first court of the first court to make that will make a pronouncement with regard to the presidential election. So there is a final court, which is the Supreme Court. Now, for presidential elections, you have the trial court, which is the Court of Appeal, then the final court, which is the Supreme Court. So after this pronouncement, no matter what the decision will be, President Tinubu will still be there, pending when the Supreme Court will make a final pronouncement on it. So whatever the situation may be, whether the court will say, oh, you are the president, or oh, you are disqualified, President Tinubu will continue to hold that office until the final decision from the Supreme Court, which will come within 180 days after today.
All right, Victor, thank you for your thoughts on that one. But let's look at, you're a lawyer, and that's why I'm asking you this, because counsels argue cases in court. So what kind of technicalities can affect a decision of a tribunal such as what we're expecting judgment from today?
That is a very beautiful question. That is one of the fears Nigerians have. And for some of us as lawyers, that is the fear we are having. Now, in law, there is what we call judicial precedent, which means decisions made by higher courts on certain subject matter. But in recent times, we have seen what we call conflicting decisions. And we have seen situations where judges depart from some decisions, either knowingly or based on some external influences. For example, the question that will be agitating in our mind right now will be one: what has been the position of law about winning 1/3 of 36 states and the FCT? Because there have been pronouncements on such matters. That is one. Then two, the question will now be, will the court accept the forfeiture of the case of Tinubu in America as a conviction in Nigeria? Because there are two different things. When a court is talking about conviction in criminal matters or any fraudulent practice, the conviction must be a conviction known to the law in Nigeria. So if there is a conviction in America, will it amount to conviction in Nigeria? And that will go to issues of technicality, whether that conviction has been registered in Nigeria. And those are the issues that were brought up by the other party. Now, the other part again will be the issue of whether that, as was raised by one of the candidates, whether the candidate for the Labour Party, as at the time he contested, whether he was a valid candidate of the Labour Party based on the internal things of the Labour Party, looking at the situation at which he came into Labour Party. These are technical issues that could also sway in the mind of the judges. And I must say this, the Supreme Court have also established and positioned that in looking at justice, we must depart from technicalities, that the days of technicalities are over, that they want substantive justice. Nigerians don't want you to decide who leads them, who wins an election based on technicalities. So that is the current position. But a lot of technicalities have been raised. Whether the court will toe the line of technicality or look at substantive justice is what we are looking at. But the Supreme Court has taken a position that the days of technicalities are over. They should do substantive justice. And substantive justice is the justice based on facts, justice based on law, applying the law to the facts and removing any other thing that is incidental or that is so minute to the matter. So this is the position of the Supreme Court.
All right, Victor, we'll come back to you shortly to have your concluding thoughts on this discussion, but we'll take a quick break and we'll be back.
For every time you hear of stolen crude oil, burst pipelines or vandalized wellheads, it means our sources of livelihood have been affected. It means our environment has been impacted. It means our economic ecosystem has been degraded. For decades, we have suffered untold hardship due to the activities of these enemies of our nation. Our waters are being polluted daily by these people. What happens to us, our children, our families, our way of life? We must stop them. They and their collaborators must be brought to justice. We stand with Tantita Security Services and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited in the fight against oil theft.
As an MC, I need to walk the talk. It's a walk I've walked many times. It's okay, everyone. Notice well. Before, these tough stains would stay on my clothes, and all the scrubbing, it would fade my colors. But thanks to Ariel Color Expert, nothing's well.
It lifts the toughest stains, keeping your clothes bright, wash after wash.
O'Shea, Ariel Color Expert. Let's get this party started.
New Ariel, 5 times Color Protect Power.
All right, thank you for staying with us. We're going to turn to Victor now to take our concluding part of this discussion. Now, Victor, since the tribunal began sitting, particularly when the case was before the court, around when it was decided, would like your quick thought, particularly on the fact that a lot of people driving conversations are saying that the cases this time has witnessed a high level of intimidation and cheap blackmail on the judiciary. In very few minutes, we would like your thoughts on this development.
Yeah, I remember the last time I was in your studio. That was when the issue of whether or not the proceedings should be televised live. And my concluding statement on that day was that while the tribunal is trying the election, Nigerians are trying the judges. That was my concluding remark, if you recall.
Okay.
And that is why the issue of whether or not there is intimidation of the judges from other side, there is intimidation, there is possible blackmail, there is possible influences. And let me tell you, you cannot remove the issue of judges' intimidation or judges' blackmail from both sides.
All right, Victor. That's how much time can allow us to go on this conversation. But we'd like to thank you for your time and have a pleasant day.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
All right, Victor Giwa is a lawyer and an election observer, joined us to look at some of the issues as Nigerians are with the Election Petition Tribunal's verdict today. Now, all attention is now directed to the Presidential Election Tribunal, the Petition Tribunal, which is, declaring results today. And we'd like to remind you that AIT will be highlighting the proceedings from here, starting by 8 a.m. You just have to join us to get all the details of what will be happening at the tribunal and the judgment today. And that's how we wrap up Kakaki, the African Voice. So we will be out here now for that Kakaki studio on the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal to take over.
All rise on the base.
We kick them back. All these things need to be focused on, and that is why I like what the president did. He used one stone to kill two birds by selecting Dele Alaki and putting him in the Ministry of, solid minerals. Because why? Dele Alaki will not stop being a spokesperson of the president. He will always be his mouth, but he can use him because he's a man of experience and with intellect to, energize that region and add money to the Nigerian economy. When Nigeria is making money from export of all the solid minerals, it will also add to our foreign reserve. All of us will have jobs and everything, So I don't have a problem with the number of ministers because Nigeria is a country of 200 million people and we need a lot of work to be done. Yeah. So far, this minister's work is synchrony, and like the president said, anyone who is not performing will get the consequence. They will be booted out. So I don't have a problem with it. I think the president has been on point.
Dr. Oludare, let me quickly cram this question into this little space of time. President Bola Tinubu emerged the chairman of ECOWAS, Authority of Head of States within his 100 days. And, with the coups in neighboring Niger, we've got Mali, we've got Burkina Faso, etc. How do you think he has positioned himself? The approach is made to resolving this quagmire within the ECOWAS region, and has it really rubbed off positively on the image of Nigeria's big brother on the continent?
Yes, the president has been a forthright, straight up, and very honorable leader in the face of all these things. A lot of people. To me, I feel like some people actually undermine the position of the president in terms of the negotiation in Niger by coming out and saying Nigeria does not want to go to war. Nigeria has no business interest or desire to, fight his little brother in Niger. We are in support of them. What we want is to ensure that the power of the people is maintained in that place. And the president did it the right way. When they talk about the carrot or the stick, they don't say you give the carrot first and then you bring the stick. Both of them have to, both of them have to be on ground at the same time. So the president is and evidence of this is the fact that the president is among the very few that has been selected to have a chat with the president of the United States during the upcoming United Nations Assembly. The president has been on point on this, and I believe, like I said, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the Franklin Delano Roosevelt of Nigeria. He is going to navigate this thing and restore democracy all across Africa. We have to remember Niger is very important because we have this Trans-Sahara pipeline that Asiwaju said during the election. Europe is buying fuel from its enemy. We have gas. We want to sell. We want to make a pipeline from Nigeria across Niger to Algeria, where it will supply Europe. Nigeria is going to make a fortune, an enormous fortune from this pipeline. We can't have a rancorous junta in that place. They are not going to let the people of Niger see the benefit of it. So democracy needs to be restored in Niger and in other countries. And Asiwaju, who fought the military regime severally as a young man, who escaped 3 assassination attempts by the military regime, I am sure he is not going to back out of this fight because he is a sworn enemy of autocracy and he is a true Democrat. So the president has been so, pristine in his handling of this thing, and he's biding his time very well. He's playing his cards right, in my own opinion, and in the end, we will see that he is going to get a result. But, in terms of Nigeria needs to ensure that we hold that leadership role. We protect our democracy by ensuring the democracy in our own environment. Because like the president said, copycats, if you think about it, 1966, the 6 major generals, the 6 majors, they were not the top guys, but they were people who started the coup. So we don't want any copycats among the junior ranks, rank and file of the military. So I am so much in support of, the way the president has handled it. I think he's been a perfect, tactful statesman, someone like, Kinsinger and co. And I believe that he is going to get results.
Convener Social Rehabilitation Grace and Support Initiative, Dr. Maridoti Oludare, thanks a lot for your contributions on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Brian, for having me.
All right, still ahead on the program. Fingers are crossed as Nigerians anticipate the outcome of the presidential petition's court judgment. Later today, join us for more insights on this big story when we return. Stay with us. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Now to our next leg of discussions, this second half of TVC Breakfast Wednesday edition. Since 1999, Nigeria has had about 7 elections, but way before that, the country has dipped in and out of democratic system of government. Here are some figures and facts on the petitions filed by aggrieved candidates in some of these elections till date. Of course, every election or presidential election result in Nigeria, except for that of 2015, has been challenged at the court since 1979, 1983, 1999, 2003. Of course, the presidential election was also challenged in 2007, 2011, 2019, and 2023, which we are in now. And this cycle of election, the petitioners are Atiku Abubakar of the PDP and Peter Obi of the Labour Party, both men challenging the results of the presidential election victory of Bola Tinubu, who's of the All Progressives Congress. The judgment is being delivered exactly about 170 days after the filing of the petition, which is now just about 11 days shy of the 180-day time frame set out in section 285, subsection 6 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. And these amendments stipulate that election petitions should be disposed of within 8 months from filing to the appeal stage. These amendments are contained in section 285, subsections 5, 6, and 7. Let me read out subsection 5. It stipulates that the election petition shall be filed within 21 days after the declaration of results. And subsection 6 adds that it allows for the disposal of an election petition within 180 days, that's about 6 months. Subsection 7 is clear that an appeal shall be heard and disposed of within 60 days from the date of delivery of that judgment. So this means that after today's judgment by the presidential election petition court, losers can, if they wish, file an appeal, but that appeal must be disposed of by November the 6th of this year. So that's all what we'll be discussing this morning, the issues surrounding it with the heightened anxiety now that today is Judgment Day. I have with me in the studio 2 lawyers, social development advocate and a lawyer, Olatubo Soshifowora is here. We also have a lawyer and a PR consultant, Jide Ologun. It's good to have you join us, Mr. Ologun.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you both, and I hope you've been keeping well during this period. But you know, looking around, there had been so much talks about an anxiety, understandably, so to speak, ahead of today's judgment at the Court of Appeal this morning. But then all the parties are saying no shaking. Still, they say no shaking. But when you look at the security permutations on the ground, before we even get to the security permutations now, what are you looking out for? You know, as that judgment will get to be read today, what would be the areas of concentration or interest for you?
You know, basically, we expect one of three options. Option 1 is to affirm the victory of President Tinubu and our Commander-in-Chief. Option 2 is to nullify that victory and call for another election. And option 3 is to nullify, ask him to leave office, and instate one of the petitioners who the tribunal eventually decide won. You see, so those are the three options. And by the end of today, we know where we are going. But having said that, when it comes to contentious issues like this, when you allege, you must prove. That's what the Evidence Act says. So it's not about the allegations of eligibility, double nominations. When you allege, you must prove. And I think about 89 senior advocates of Nigeria have represented the parties at the tribunal. So I expect that with the caliber of knowledge they have, and none of them should come out to say the tribunal has not given justice, because we have monitored. You can present you bring your oral testimonies, your documentary evidence, and when it comes to adjudication, we talk about issues, we talk about facts, we talk about evidence. And they've been given opportunity to present all this before the tribunal. And the tribunal, having 5 justices of the appellate jurisdiction level, it's not a mean thing. And I want to say this as a matter of fact, that the judiciary cannot be intimidated. It's just interesting that we are now in an era of social media where there are several tribunals on phone. In fact, some have concluded this matter weeks ago. But it's not like that. And let me also commend all the parties before the tribunal for testing democracy. You see, and if they did not have trust in the judiciary, they would not have gone. The judiciary will not come and say, yeah, you must come to the tribunal. No. In 2015, the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, was an incumbent president. And he decided that, okay, let me submit to the decision of INEC. And constitutionally speaking, INEC is the mandated umpire to handle elections in Nigeria. But if you look at Section 65 of the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, it keeps the door open that, okay, if you are not satisfied with the final decision, you can approach the tribunal or a court of competent jurisdiction. So by and large, we are testing our democratic processes, and as of today, within the time given for these matters to be resolved, we come to hear the verdict. Now let me say this, I don't envy the judiciary at this point in time. Somebody must win. So it doesn't, in politics, your party must flex muscle just like in wrestling. We will win. So 3 major parties now are saying they will win. So let's wait as spectators, and at the end of the day, we, hoping that the tribunal will seek to give the final verdict. And we move on. Like San Femi Falana said, there is still the Supreme Court intervention after this level.
I still want to ask you, before I compare notes with that of Oso Oshifora, your co-analyst, and that is, going by the introduction, the fact that, and you've said as much, that the judiciary is up to the task. This will not be the first time that the judiciary will have to adjudicate over, presidential elections. Statistics take us back to as far back as 1979. And, this is yet another round that this, senior jurists will now have to determine the fate of, the incumbent, so to speak. But what do you make about this particular cycle of duties, of national duties for the judiciary? When you look at, and even beyond judiciary, what makes this one, stick out? Would it just be any other activity for the judges or even for us as a country, or does this stand out somehow for you?
There are 3 arms of government. The legislative arm, they make the laws. The executive executes. Judiciary interprets. The judiciary will not force you to come for the interpretations of the law. And I've mentioned it. These parties went to the tribunal. In fact, it's affecting the civil cases. Many judges have been drafted to go and attend to election petitions. You see, so it's not, and that is kept open because the judiciary is reckoned with as having the capacity to look at allegations and resolve disputes there and come to a conclusion. And talking about INEC, the foundation of INEC dates back to the pre-colonial era, but basically we have the Federal Electoral Commission of 1960 that conducted the 1964-1965 elections, which was even rancorous. So I also do not envy INEC. So maybe what we should be looking at now is go.
This Wednesday, the Labour Party case, the PDP, and of course the APM. Let's share in these infographs the history of this election petition case. Remind you of who the petitioners in this presidential petition are. Like Amechi said earlier, initially there were 5 petitioners, 5 presidential candidates and 5 political parties, but 2 of them withdrew their cases, and today the presidential election petition court will be delivering judgment in 3 of the remaining cases. And the petitioners in this case are the Allied People's Movement and its presidential candidate, Princess Chichi Ojei, the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. And of course, there are also 3 respondents in the case. The 3 respondents are Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his party, the All Progressives Congress, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And in one of the cases, the vice president, who was the vice presidential candidate of the APC, Kashim Shettima, was also joined. That was in the petition filed by the PDP. And so, quickly, as Imoni told you earlier, we are being joined by some experts to really break this down for us this very historic day, where indeed who will continue to be in the saddle will be determined. Victor Giwa, a lawyer, joins us via Zoom from Lagos. Also joining us via Zoom from Lagos is Monday Obani. Monday Obani, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Right. Thank you so much, Victor Giwa, for joining us. Amechi, let's put in perspective again the fact that this judgment today is going to be televised live. It's not the first time that tribunal judgments will be televised live. We have had 1 or 2 before now that were, the judgments were televised live, and I think that this again goes to the fact that the tribunal, the election petition court, wants to be as transparent as possible.
Absolutely. So let's bring in our guest now, Monday Obani. Take us through your experience of election petition cases, and of course, especially the way and manner we have carried out reforms of election petition cases. We make reference to the previous times in the past where indeed the outcome of the election was challenged in court. There were instances where it dragged on for years, but based on amendment of the Constitution and indeed the Electoral Act, we saw timelines being introduced. For instance, if there's an appeal of the judgment of the
Tribunal today, the Supreme Court must within 60 days, starting from today, dispense with the matter. How important were those reforms that introduced timelines to election petition cases?
Thank you very much. As you rightly pointed out, we have had a history of amendment of our Electoral Act. And then this issue of judicial intervention on election is part of the process. We have the registration of voters as the first process. You have the election itself proper as another process. And then you have the intervention of the judiciary whenever there is any aggrieved parties who felt probably that the result was not proper or valid. He has a right to go to court. So judicial intervention in our electoral process, has always been part of the electoral process. And so over time, we have been able to amend our Electoral Act in order to reflect the reality. There was a time that if you go to court, the case will last up to 3 or 4 years. There was an instance either in Anambra where the governor was about rounding off his tenure and he was removed. And the person who was declared the winner, I think it was P2B, started afresh, and that is where there has been some level of disruption, even on our national election, the timetable, where all the states are not usually uniform in conducting them because of this judicial intervention that took so many years sometimes to resolve. And people felt that this cannot be justice. Then the issue of timeline and then adhering to it strictly was introduced. Now, if you want to go to court, you have a timeline within which to file the action. If you feel that you are aggrieved, you have the timeline within which to file. Also, within the lower court, you have a timeline within which to present your evidence and then your witnesses. After that, the Court of Appeal has a timeline, and then the Supreme Court. As you pointed out, within the current electoral jurisprudence, if this court case is determined today, we have 60 days within which the Supreme Court should be able to have the final say on this issue of the presidential election. It wasn't like this before. Before, these things will linger and drag up to 3 or 4 years, and then before the final outcome is determined by the court. So there has been series of amendments which has brought us to where we are today. But people are still clamoring for further amendment. People are arguing. Why would you swear in a candidate who has declared a winner when there are grievances being expressed by parties that contested alongside with him who felt that, look, we should be able to have this determined before you are swearing in the person? But our Electoral Act and our jurisprudence is allowing that to happen, that the candidate will be sworn in, and then you now go to court within that time, you're still in power. That is one of the further amendment that people are clamoring for. That it is not proper for persons to be sworn in before the issue of his election determined by the court. And it's better this is handled and finished with, just like we have in Kenya. Yes, these are countries that have amended their law to ensure that somebody who has been challenged, that particular outcome is known before he's sworn.
Let me bring you into this conversation now. You heard Mr. Bani there say that there are agitations for election petitions to be disposed of before declared winners take office. Now, we borrowed the presidential system of government from the United States of America. Now, let's look at that and look at other jurisdictions, as you lawyers will put it, look at other democracies around the world, whether or not this is the same practice whereby election petitions are allowed to hold while those who were declared winners take office, or whether or not we should, in fact, toe the line of those who are agitating at the moment, that they should be disposed of clearly before those who are the real winners are inaugurated and take office. Hello, Victor, are you with us?
Yes, okay. Now, thank you very much. We have in others in other clients and other jurisdictions, like you said, thank you. when election results are announced, there's always a schedule when the person will be sworn in, and of course, the United States, they don't have a case where you have to wait for the court to decide or take a decision on the election. And principally, it is because election is not a function of the court. Election is for the people. The people should determine who their leader should be. It shouldn't be the court. Now, court should determine issues of law. So it is never contemplated in any jurisdiction that when there are issues in elections, that the court should, the activities of the election should be suspended pending when the court takes decision. It was after a lot of development coming from politicians, and that is why we are now seeing agitation for reform, agitation for amendment, like my senior colleague there rightly mentioned. Yeah, and you guys also mentioned it. You also mentioned it during your introduction. There were times where election petitions lasted for over 3.5 years, almost 6 months to the end of a tenure of the particular office. There are times where at the end of the day, when the election petition gives its judgment, the times have been spent, like it happened in the time of Peter Obi. It was dealt with about 1 year. So now people started agitating. The law is dynamic. There need to be a reason. There need to be, for where there is a wrong, there must be a remedy. And that is what has led to the reform. Now it is happening in Kenya because politicians will want to take the advantage. Oh, they will want to rig the process, get into office, and frustrate the judicial process. And so you will see cases of bringing in unnecessary interlocutory applications, giving all kinds of story that will prolong the activities in the tribunal. And that is why there is the agitation for now the provision to be that you don't have to swear you in until the election petition determines that issue. Like you made reference to Kenya, the provision right now is in Kenya where the court must determine it, and the court determines their case in less than 30 days. The last election that was held I think in somewhere, okay, the election before now, the court, the case came, they did the election 29th of July. On the 2nd, the case went to the tribunal. On the 13th of August, the case were determined. On the 29th of August last year, the announcements were made. Less than 30 days, elections were determined, and the candidate was sworn in. And in most cases, in those tribunals, the case goes straight to the Supreme Court. They don't have cases of appeal. So it depends on each of the jurisdiction, and every country designs the pattern that it thinks can solve their own domestic problem. And looking at our history, and looking at our culture, and looking at the attitude of politicians, laws are designed to meet the needs and the culture of our people. So that is what has led to what we have right now. 180 days for the trial, 60 days on appeal to the Supreme Court, so that these things can be dealt with. If not, you will have cases where you have situation where cases will be protracted and to make mess of the democratic process. Democracy is not supposed to be determined by the court. The people to determine who their leaders are.
Mr. Bani, there have also been suggestions that maybe we should begin to look at the Kenyan model in this regard, which is that election petitions, particularly the presidential election petitions, should go straight to the Supreme Court, sitting as a constitutional court, rather than go from the Court of Appeal before ending up at the Supreme Court. How desirable is that? Do you think that the current process, whereby after the Court of Appeal, you then have the right of appeal to the Supreme Court is, gives more room for issues to be clearly ventilated.
Yeah, both parties have gains from their own point of view. There are those who will tell you, start with a lower court and then present all your evidence and your witnesses. And if the judges come to a conclusion, it may be that they are human beings and they can be wrong, and that the issue of their being wrong can be corrected by a higher court, which is the Supreme Court. And so they now make it a two-stage thing. Some other persons will tell you, why don't we go straight to the Supreme Court? The danger people also point out that is only one court. And whatever they say becomes final without taking a second look, as would have been done if the court of first instance would have looked at it, and if there is any way they may have made a mistake, the upper court now will not correct that mistake. But if the mistake is occurring now, primarily at the Supreme Court, for the first time, they will correct it except God, and God does not sit over, preside over human matters here. So that is the argument. As I said earlier, both have advantages and disadvantages. So if you ask me, if you really want to shorten the process, then we now begin to look at those stages of our judicial intervention. In fact, for the governors, it's even all the way from a lower court to Court of Appeal and to Supreme Court. It used to be only two stages. All of a sudden they introduced the three stages of going through the tribunal, then you now go to Court of Appeal, you now go to Supreme Court. Making the process even more laborious, more expensive, and very frustrating at times for those who want to probably concentrate, to run the affairs of governance, but being distracted by this long process of judicial intervention. So I think, if you ask me, I would rather want, a one-off issue where the Supreme Court will finally look at both governorship and the presidential election results and determine it, because that is the highest court, where we have the best mind, the brightest minds, who we believe will be able to establish what they call judicial precedent and stick to it. The problem with our judiciary with regards to electoral processes is that there has always been sometimes they overturn themselves in precedents. They don't stick to precedents that have already been established. Today you will hear this one particular judgment that tallies with existing precedent. Tomorrow another one comes up, not directly overruling, but a different position, even with the same facts. And so this inconsistency in establishing precedent in the electoral process is also encouraging many petitioners to come to court. Oh, maybe let's take a trial. We may likely succeed. And they will cite several cases where the court has actually somersaulted, over electoral matters. This thing doesn't happen in contract. It doesn't happen in constitutional cases. It doesn't happen in criminal cases. But in electoral issues, we always have this issue of somersault in established judicial precedent. They're always, departing. So people now go to court, oh, let's take a trial. Maybe they will, take a different position. Look at what happened in Lawa's case. A case where the man never participated allegedly in any primary. All of a sudden, the man ended up being a senator today in the Federal Republic. To the extent that the senator asked him, please teach me, how you managed to be here, because all of us contested presidential, and so the issue is this. This issue of non-adherence to judicial precedent is also leading to multiplicity of cases in election cases in Nigeria. And the issue again of not employing technology and adhering to it will always make people to come to court alleging flawed process. So let's try to stick to the judicial precedent. Let's also try to introduce technology, more of it, in the electoral process. It will reduce the number of cases that come before the election tribunal.
Mr. Giwa, what are your thoughts on this issue of 2 or 3 stages of election petitions? For governorship, it is 3 stages, and for the presidential, it is 2. From the Court of Appeal sitting as the first tribunal, and then, of course, appeal to the Supreme Court. Do you think that should be or should continue to be the process, or should we begin to copy what you described earlier on as the case in Malawi and Kenya, where the Supreme Court sitting as the as the Constitutional Court directly deals with this matter and it becomes final?
Yes, thank you very much. I can tell you for free that cases like Malawi and Kenya that you just mentioned is the right place to go. And I will give you some reasons. One, in those courts, especially in the Supreme Court, like in the case of Kenya, the Supreme Court, they're sitting as a constitutional court, determines that case once and for all. And these are the reasons. One, the justices at the Supreme Court are supposed to be people, one, that have seen it all. They are not ambitious. They don't want to build new houses. They don't want to send their children to school. They don't want to buy the latest Jeep. They don't want to buy more cars. They are old. They are not young. They are old. They are passionate about their country. They are matured. They are matured both in law and both in age. They are patrons. They are believers of their countries. They can speak to the law. They can speak to the candidate. They stand for their country. They are not easily persuaded by external influences. They speak as fathers. They speak as statesmen. So they are not expected to be influenced by any pecuniary interest. So at that point, they are talking as patrons of their countries. They are looking at the facts and applying the law as it is. They are following their oath of office. They are not doing anybody any favor. They are applying the law the way it is. They are so matured. They are not looking for somebody to promote them or somebody to remove them. So at that level, they speak to the law the way it is. And so that is why a lot of credence is given to them. But when you have people in the lower court, they are young people, for example, I am aware that there is a particular election tribunal that have judges who were just appointed in less than 2 years, who are justices in an election tribunal, sitting right now as I'm talking to you. A judge that has just 2-3 years experience, putting the person in an election tribunal in Nigeria that has so much interest, where people can be, you can hear in I think in Kano State, where a particular particular judge in the election tribunal is saying that, look, people are collecting millions, 10 million naira for me. I will not don't bring any money to us. There are a lot of interest, corrupt practices, politicians trying to influence them. So when it is in that level, I am not saying that people in that level cannot be influenced, but I am saying that their level of influence will be reduced, because some of them are even close to their exit. They are not looking to build new houses. They are not sending their children to school. Most of their children are away from school, so they have less pressure. They have seen it all. So I think it is advised, especially in the presidential election, that this petition goes straight to the final court, where everything will be transparent from the sitting. It will be live from the sitting to the judgment. People will see, people can hear, people can feel, because justice should not just be done, but it will be seen to be done. That is the whole idea. That even the lives of these people in the Supreme Court, in those clients, they are known. They know how many cars they have. They know where their children live. They know how their children live. So they will not live one kind of life now and live the other the next day. So it is better that you have that at that level, presidential election, to be determined at that point once and for all.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, Mr. Bani, the critics of the advocates of a shortened period for consideration of election petitions say that it may give room for a number of shortcomings. For instance, petitioners and, in fact, the respondents may not have enough time to present their cases and their evidences when you have such a shortened time for the consideration of the cases. And that may lead to a miscarriage of justice at the end of the day. How do you respond to that?
I think it has to do with the issue of evidence, and we need to really take a second look at our laws and look at the process of tendering evidence and calling witnesses. If we reduce this issue of allegation of come to dump documents without speaking to the documents, it may reduce this issue of having a long line of witnesses. You remember that Obi in this petition lined up, proposed 50 witnesses. I think he ended up calling only 13. Atiku proposed 100 witnesses. He ended up calling 27.
I'm on air. I'll call you back.
He ended up calling 27. I also know that Bola Tinubu proposed other 30-something or 40-something witnesses. I think they ended up calling only one witness. Now, this issue, that you come to dump document, without speaking to it, is one of those things that actually bring this problem and lengthen the entire process. So I'm saying that, look, let's look at our law. Let's look at the process of tendering evidence. Can we shorten that process and allow documents, that speaks to itself, to be used, as evidence?
Sorry, Ubani, I have to cut you short there. I will come back to you because we are getting signals that our correspondent at the appeal court premises, Utibe Umoren, is set to give us the live update on proceedings there. From the initial visuals, we got footages, a lot of activities going on there. It's going to be indeed a beehive at that place. And we have Utibe Umoren join us now. Utibe, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us quickly the situation, the look and feel of the appeal court premises.
Thank you very much, Amechi. It's, like you said, a beehive of activities all day. It all started very early in the morning. That was expected because maybe I should just take you back to when we all started our setup here, which was yesterday. We got here very early yesterday, and we all through till late in the night was when we eventually completed our setup of equipment. Because it's been open for media coverage, you have a large presence of television stations right here at the Court of Appeal, and a whole lot of them were also here on Tuesday to set up as well. But much later, at about 9 p.m., the security operatives around here took a decision to clear everybody out so that they can do the necessary sweeping. Now, that sweeping continued, security sweep continued up until this morning, so that even when most people arrived at around 6 a.m. in the morning, they still had to wait till just about 20-30 minutes ago before they were screened again and allowed inside the courtroom. Now, the security situation, I must emphasize, is quite top-notch. And driving into the court from the precincts, if you know the Court of Appeal very well, for Nigerians who know where this court is, all the way from where the force headquarters is, the police headquarters, all the way down to the road that leads off to the Supreme Court and the Presidential Villa has completely been cordoned off. And right through that cordon, you have about 4 security checks that you have to pass through. And each of them would take you through a scrutiny before you are let into the next stage. The next stage doesn't take it for granted that you have been screened earlier by the first stage. You're still taken through the same scrutiny up until you get to the gate of the court. Now, that is where it gets even more complex, because that's where the list of accredited persons, well, I just understand that the Vice President is on his way, so Amechi, I'll just shift away a bit so we can position our camera.
Yes,
we
can see the National Security Advisor
security detail are
right
coming
behind you there. Yes, you can easily make
that's
way.
Right. So
so
let's just move to a vantage position where we can give you a view of the Vice President arriving. Of course, you know that he's one of the parties to the case that has been filed by the Labour Party. His convoy, security convoy, and his car convoy is just right on his way into the courtroom now, into the court premises, I beg your pardon, and of course with a retinue of security officials as well. So that gives you a sense of what we are expecting or likely going to expect from this place. Before now, VIPs had arrived. We are talking about party chieftains. A whole lot of them had been here earlier in the morning. Also, top government officials, ministers as well. I cited the National Security Advisor, who was here earlier, and former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido. So you have party chieftains across all the political parties that are represented in this case before the court. So there you have it, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. He's just arrived at the Presidential Election Petition Court and being welcomed there by the National Security Advisor, who was here much earlier. And of course, the Chief of Staff to the President as well, Femi Gbajabiamila. We know that the President is not around at the moment, so of course, he is going to be properly represented by... Good morning, Your Excellency. Yeah. All right, so unfortunately, we cannot get a peek of what their impression is. We cannot even speak to them right now because that would be sub judice. So we'll wait until the judgment is over before we get a perspective of them, what they think about the decision of the court one way or the other. So this is just a preview of what we are going to expect. We're expecting more people, more VIPs to arrive here in the next few minutes because we're expecting that the court proceedings should commence maybe in the next 30 minutes. The date on the schedule, the court list, the time, sorry, on the court list is actually 10 a.m. So hopefully by 9:30, the justices are expected to come into the court. But we've had a large presence of the lawyers expectedly. There are the main persons as far as this is concerned. They've been the ones canvassing the cases for the different parties since the proceedings started. Amechi.
Yeah, Utibe, from where you stand in the court premises, can you have a peep outside of the Court of Appeal premises to see what the situation is? You recall that all through the period of the trial, there were interested individuals and groups that were always milling around the court premises outside of the court. What is it like today?
Well, it's no different, Imoni. The situation is almost the same. From where I am now, I could hear, the people demonstrating for whatever causes they're demonstrating outside, beating their drums. The sound of the drum beat could be heard even where I am right now. But, before the Vice President came in, I was trying to give you a perspective of what the security situation is outside the gate. So the cordon has actually kept that group of people a bit farther away from where they usually gather. They've been gathering, as you said, Imoni, from the beginning of these proceedings in March when it was filed and when the first pre-hearing held in April. And they've continued each day of the hearing. And today is no different. Their presence is quite much, and they're out there. Incidentally, hopefully I should be able to get you visuals of what is happening out there. But at the court, the entrance to the court itself, it's a very complex security situation there. The checks are quite intense, so they have a list of all persons who were accredited to be here in court. If you remember 2 days ago, when the notice came out that the judgment is scheduled for today, it was clearly stated that only those who have been accredited will have access into the courtroom. And we're talking about lawyers, we're talking about accredited journalists, we're talking about other court officials. All of them had to go through that accreditation process. So when you get to the gate of the courtroom, your name has to be confirmed from the tag you were given. I have my tag here. So the name is confirmed on the list. and want to see your name there, it's ticked, and your face verify that you are the owner of that tag before you are letting. Some persons who came out in the vehicles were allowed in, but some senior lawyers were allowed to come in, and of course the VIP, such as the vice president, drove in as well. So that's the situation here at the court as far as the security arrangements. Of course, Imoni, the protesters and the demonstrators which you are talking about are concerned.
Okay, Utile, we saw the vice president arrive in the absence of the president the first time. He's coming to the court as it were, but in the past we have seen the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi frequent the court. We have also noticed PDP's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar on one or two occasions also come around to observe proceedings. Have you cited any of them today, as it were?
No, they are not here yet, Amechi, but we can bet for about 80% that they will be here, because these are persons who have been here right from when the proceedings started. But their partners, their allies, I should say, have already come in. Some close associates of the Labour Party presidential candidates, for instance, are here in court already. I saw them here, and some top members of the Labour Party as well. The PDP officials are also here, and of course the APC, the national chairman of the APC, former governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, came in much earlier before the vice president came in. So it's an affair that is going to involve all the big wigs of all the different parties involved in this particular case, Amechi.
Now, give us a sense of what the feeling is around here, the fact that this judgment is going to be telecast live. Now, you recall that at the beginning...
Unfortunately, I seem to have lost contact with you, Amechi. I don't know whether the network has been jammed somehow, so I can't really hear you. But I think we could stay on, so I give you a perspective of more things that are happening here. Okay, maybe we'll just push back a bit, so you have a view of what is happening just outside the courtroom. Okay, so there we have it. More journalists are still coming into the court. Large presence of security officials, the police, the SSS as well. They're all here. Now, getting into the courtroom has been quite tight as well. If my camera could just pan, you see those two black buses. Those two black buses are actually body screening vehicles. So everybody that goes into the courtroom must pass through those buses. You have to pass through that you get inside the court. So there are metal detectors in those buses as well. We've been advised not to show the buses, not to shoot them. In fact, a couple of them have come to tell us, no, don't do that, don't do that. But just to give you a sneak peek of what is really happening here, Amechi and Imonia. Hopefully my audio connection should come back so I can hear and have more interface with you. So, but for now, that's just the situation that we are having here, Amechi and Imoni.
Okay, can you hear us now? Can you hear us now, Utibe?
Absolutely, I can hear you.
Okay, now. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
yes,
it appears more arrivals.
Okay, so we have another key official coming now. I can't really state who the person is, but the camera is closing in, so you have a clear idea of who the person is.
That is obviously
okay, that's the governor of Kogi State. Coming in as well with the governor of Imo State. Of course, we told you that we're going to have a large presence of members of the ruling party here. Yes, so it's a solidarity ongoing for them, and you would expect that the president is not here, so they have to show their solidarity and support for the leader of their party. That's the governor of Imo State, governor of Kogi State, and his colleagues from Kwara State.
The president is fully represented, as it were. Well, I wonder how many of them that could get inside.
The day progresses.
If you can hear me, Utibe, because of the number of the capacity of the courtroom, the reports I got earlier was that seats were rationed out to the different parties to the case, so as not to overcrowd and all that, different from what we saw during the trial. So we expect not so many crowd as we have seen in the past when indeed the judgment starts. Well,
they have to be disciplined to ensure that they have proper crowd management here. As I said, my report yesterday, I was here all through yesterday, I was able to take a numbering of the seats in the courtroom. It is a 188-seater courtroom. But there are attachments, so there are plastic chairs that are fitted in some spaces to accommodate more people. So hopefully, or technically, we should have up to about 200 seats available. But as you said, Amechi, all those seats are clearly mapped out. So everybody coming in is going to take spaces as it's been assigned to them. The section for the lawyers are there. The section for the media, the press gallery is there. The section for the VIP is there as well. Of course, the section for the public. And the public means any other person who's interested in this case, who wants to see it and has gone through the process of accreditation as set out and spelled out by this court will be allowed in. But the number is going to be very negligible because they have to try as much as possible to manage the crowd here because it's a highly sensitive security case of very, interesting public dimension. So they're trying to manage that very well to ensure that they do not allow the place to be overcrowded, because if it's overcrowded, then they'll have a problem managing them. So even getting inside the courtroom, the final point of entry into the courtroom are those two brown doors, which I've shown in my report since this proceeding started in March. At the point you get to that door, you still have to go through a check to be sure that your name is on the list to go inside the courtroom. So it's been properly categorized. Correspondents, news reporters, those for live coverage who they expect to just come in and set up the equipment and step out and man their equipment outside, save for the cameramen who have to be inside. And of course, the political party followers and supporters and officials, the VIPs as we've seen them, and the rest. And the lawyers, most in particular, are the ones that have their seats all spelled out. We have a situation where, in the course of these hearings, we have seen the parties, that's the lead counsel for most of the parties, announce appearances of up to 18 senior advocates or 20 senior advocates and 20 juniors as well with them. That number has been completely trimmed down. So you can't, for instance, have a particular party or a lawyer representing a particular party announcing 40 persons as part of his legal team. So it's been pruned down to ensure that even the lawyers do not take over entire space in the courtroom. So that's the situation inside the courtroom. I'll hopefully go in and bring you pictures of the courtroom much later. Amechi, good morning.
Hopefully we'll be looking forward to that, but given the fact that there is a limited capacity in the courtroom, I guess that was one of the reasons why the court itself decided to allow live telecast of these judgments, so that as many people, as many Nigerians and other interested persons can follow the process on their television sets.
Absolutely, Moni, you're very correct. So remember, this was a very interesting part of these proceedings when at the initial stages, applications were made that, look, the court will be too crowded. There's so much public interest in this case. So let's leave the court, let's allow the television cameras to come in to beam this live so that it will help decongest the court. People can stay at their homes or the comfort of their offices and witness the proceedings. The court said, no, it's not proper. The court, the presence of the media alone is enough to satisfy the constitutional provision that trials of cases must be heard in public. There were other considerations as well as canvassed by the respondents to this case, which included the fact that it's going to create undue sensationalism of this case, and many people who don't understand court processes may just end up running around to town, especially on the social media, with a very confused perspective of what is actually ruled upon, or what is being said, or the pronouncements by the judges or submissions made by the lawyers.
Okay.
But it's interesting to see that at this stage of the judgment itself, they found it important to take that decision of allowing the television cameras to be the eyes of the public who would have loved to be inside the courtroom to witness these proceedings. I mentioned.
We'll have to thank you so much, Otibe. We'll have to let you go now. We're already getting visuals from inside the courtroom, from, of course, other cameras, very stocked, and you told us earlier that we were expecting that proceedings will commence by 9 a.m., but you're now saying 10 a.m., so extra 1 hour. But I have to let you go now to allow our guests, our panelists to weigh in. Thank you so much, Utibe.
Yeah, we expect that if you do have some other interventions, we will bring you in at intervals, and our other colleagues who are also there in court should be able to give us other perspectives to this whole process. Since, as it were, we still have about 45 minutes or an hour to go before the judges actually begin delivering judgments. Okay, well, let's turn to our guest, Monday Obani. The court session is getting set. You can have that feeling from the footages we shared earlier, and of course we'll continue to share those footages. The director will divide the screen so that you have direct access to the action points, as it were. But it's going to be hours of judgment today, based on what we saw during the trial and in previous experience in 2019. A lot of interlocutory injunctions would be decided because the court set the rule that they will push everything to judgment day, so they will rule on those motions, interlocutory injunctions before coming to judgment itself. So it promises to be quite a lengthy day, Monday Obani. I guess that was part of the process by the judges to ensure that the entire trial is not disrupted by motions and interlocutory injunctions, so that at the end of the day, they take all of them together.
Yeah, you're very correct. That's the rules of procedure, especially with election issues. Instead of wasting time to begin to write rulings on all the several applications that have been filed, the court will take those applications and reserve them during the final judgment. It's going to be a long day. I must confess, it's going to be a long day. So many novel issues were canvassed, in this particular case. In this election case, this presidential election, both by PDP, both by Labour, and even the third political party that also is remaining as one of the petitioners in this particular case. So they will look at all those plenary objections, they dispose them off. Those that deal with issue of jurisdiction will be decided first before they enter into the main case, that actually brought the petitioners to court. Of course, the Electoral Act itself has narrowed down the three main grounds on which you can now petition: issue of qualification, issue of whether the election was marred by malpractices, corrupt practices. That is an issue, there's a ground. And then the issue whether you have secured the majority lawful vote in order for you to be declared winner. So these are the three main grounds upon which you can now approach the court. And there has been several issues that require novel pronouncement. The issue of Abuja 25%, today we get to know what is the position of the judiciary with regards to that, whether you can be declared a president without securing that 25%. We will look at the issue of whether will be in his, as a political candidate of Labour, was even a candidate of that political party, because that was the contention of APC, that Obi wasn't. The court will make a pronouncement with regards to that. And then so many other, whether Shetima was actually a double candidate for both senatorial and vice presidential position. That again will be pronounced upon today by this very court. And then the issue that INEC never complied, according to the allegation, with their own internal guideline of ensuring that they transfer their results to the portal, the IRF, and then not strictly following that guideline as made by them, also will be decided by the court today. So many novel issues. So it's going to be a long day. And I'm happy that the court itself has now agreed that Nigerians deserve to know what is actually going on before the tribunal. Because during the time of the proceedings in the trial, there was application for that to be allowed to happen, and they refused it, citing several reasons. Now that they have agreed that Nigerians can stay in their homes and watch, the judgment is fine, and we're happy with it. We don't need to cluster at the premise. We can stay here and watch that particular judgment today. So it's going to be an interesting day. It's going to be a long day. And so take a cup of your coffee, sit by, have something to chew, other popcorn, and then enjoy the process. But the most important thing is that this issue will be determined today. There shouldn't be any breakdown of law and order. It's our country. Whoever wins, there's still an opportunity to go to Supreme Court to ventilate your grievance. So there shouldn't be any problem whatsoever for us as a nation. That's my advice.
All right, thank you so much. Let's bring in Victor Giwa at this point in time. Victor, I'm sure you've seen pictures from inside the courtroom. That's the Court of Appeal right here in the central business district of Abuja, where they call it the three-arm zone. That's where the Court of Appeal is located. And you have been seeing pictures of all those who are arriving at the court and right inside the courtroom itself. Like Utibe said, it appears that the number of lawyers who have been attending the proceedings have been trimmed down to a manageable proportion so that other Nigerians, interested parties and others can also get there. Plus, of course, the fact that this is now allowed to be transmitted live for all others. People like you who are away in Lagos to follow the process from here in Abuja. How does that sound?
It's fine. But you see, I have some observation, and maybe my background as an observer is taking sway on me, and that is of concern to me. And I want us to get and get my point. Now, I was an INEC accredited observer. I was at the Coalition Center until the result was announced. I also followed carefully the issue, the going on in the tribunal very closely, and I observed everything. But you see, politicians should conduct themselves in such a way as not to allow unnecessary tension and insinuations. The problem we have always had, it is my observation, is the politicians. Politicians should know that they should abide by the law, one. Then two, that their conduct is so important to the country. Now, what do I mean? In the election, during the trial, in the proceedings in the tribunal, we didn't see the vice president. We didn't see all these persons in the tribunal. All of a sudden, we are seeing governors coming to listen to the judgment. We are seeing the vice president coming in to listen to the judgment. We are seeing the NSA in this sitting, and it raises my curiosity. The people we normally see, we are the petitioners. We have seen the former vice president Atiku Abubakar. We have always seen Peter Obi and his vice sometimes, and other persons. But now it is even shocking that we are not even seeing these usual faces that were at the proceedings. We are now seeing more of the politicians coming in earlier before even these persons that we have been seeing. So for me, as an observer, I'm trying to ask myself, why this sudden political observation of the judgment? And these are persons who can have the privilege of sitting in their offices to listen to this judgment. How come they are now attendees to this judgment? It raises my curiosity as an observer. And I don't know if that would be a point of concern for anybody, but that is just my observation, because I keep thinking myself, why are we having, for example, of course, he has his right to be there. Why do we have the I know that the NSA has always been there. You know, he was one of the persons presenting the APC. That is, New Rubado has always been there. But when were we seeing Yaya Bello? Why are we seeing, you know, the vice president? Why are we seeing...
the vice president is an interested party. If I is one of the respondents in the case.
No, what I'm saying is that during the proceedings, we didn't see the vice president. That's what I'm saying. Or if we saw him, I cannot even count. He has the right to be there. All of them have the right to be there. But what I'm saying, as politicians, confidence is very important. And the root of what we are saying is the issue of confidence. Confidence in the system. Confidence.
We appear to have lost a signal momentarily with Victor Giwad here, but hopefully we should get him back. Of course, this is our special program coverage of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal Judgment Day in Abuja, the nation's capital. I understand that Victor Giwad is back with us now, so let's go straight back to him. Victor Giwad.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so what I am saying is that we are talking about confidence. It said justice is built on confidence. So what I am saying is that our politicians, while Shetima, like you rightly said, is an interested party, we did not see more of him during the proceeding. But now as the vice president, we are seeing him. We are seeing Governor Yaya Bello. We are seeing, I think that was the Minister for Defense, the former governor of Zamfara State. I cited him. So what I am saying is that they should conduct themselves in such a way that will not impair confidence in the system. We are talking about confidence in the process. We are talking about confidence in the system. That must be protected. Politicians should conduct themselves in such a way that they will not impair confidence in the system. We have a lot of trouble with confidence in INEC. We should not bring it into the judiciary. So what I am saying is that as a point of observation, it shouldn't be as a thing of, oh, they should not politicize this thing. They should allow the judgment and the process to go less of tension, less of suspicion, less of pressure, and allow us to enjoy it and have confidence in the system. To me, that is important.
Giwad, let me take that a little bit further. When you talk of confidence in the judiciary, that appears to have been put to some measure of test in the last couple of months since this trial started, when so-called social media influencers and party supporters went about, will I say, trying to derogate or intimidate, as some people would put it, the judiciary itself by saying all eyes on the judiciary and all of that stuff. So, I mean, it has been, well, on both ways, or on both sides of the divide, as it were now, that the confidence in the judiciary has been called to question by so many sides in this case.
Yes, I lost you partly, but the reason is this. Like, justice is based on confidence. And like Lord Daniel said in USC versus McFaul, that confidence is destroyed when ordinary man on the street looks at the judge and he said the judge was biased. So confidence is the bedrock of justice. Justice should be dispensed on the bedrock of confidence. People want to look at the judge. People want to look at the judgment and say of a truth, this is a judgment. This is justice. So why there was pressure on the judiciary was because the issue before the tribunal, like I have said it in some places, in some fora, is that they are more of facts than law. And if you could remember, there are some factual issues that need to be to be determined. What are the factual issues that need to be determined? One was whether or not the issue of the nomination of the vice president, there were evidence of nomination form received, withdrawal made, renomination by the candidate. They have it in documentary form. When the vice president was nominated, the nomination he got as a senatorial candidate in Borno, his renomination by the president as a vice president candidate.
Mr. Akewa, I think, I'm sorry to stop you there, but we do not intend to go into the details of the cases that are in court right now. And well, of course, we know that the tribunal is going to deliver judgment on the basis of evidence that is left before it. Exactly. So let us not try to preempt them and look at all the other issues around this judgment today.
Absolutely. Those arguments were fully canvassed in court by all the parties in open court, as it were. Let's bring in Mondo Bani. Three scenarios, three possible outcomes of today's judgment. The first could be that the petition could be thrown away and the incumbent president, who was declared the winner, asked to continue in office. The second scenario is that indeed he could be asked to leave office. Of course, the issue of disqualification fully canvassed. And the third scenario, and in the second scenario, either the Labour Party, the PDP or the APM could be declared winner, but you could say for the first two, more likely. And the third scenario outcome that could come today, a re-election. A rerun, as it were. Mondo Bani, take us through these three possible scenarios.
Yeah, those reliefs, as you pointed out, were canvassed by all the parties, by Labour and then by PDP. They have actually said, look, if you find out that the candidate you have declared the winner, INEC has declared the winner, has not gotten the majority support of Nigerians, then the best thing now is to invalidate that particular result and announcement of President Bola Tinubu as the president. Now, if you invalidate, then they now presented themselves as the one that should be declared the winner. The Labour Party presidential candidate who was saying, look, based upon the malpractices that occurred, those votes should be deducted. And when they are deducted, and then his own properly, aligned and assembled and counted, that he should have been the one with the majority vote. So the court may enter into the realms of mathematics, today, if he goes, agrees with that particular submission. Those that were regarded as manipulated results will be actually deducted, while the one that the candidates said that is their normal vote should be added. And then if you now calculate it and find out that that person secures the majority vote, then if that person should be declared the winner, having satisfied all the requirements, the constitutional requirement for being declared. Or the court goes in and discovers that there is a likelihood that both parties or all the parties should go back to the polling unit in order to determine properly who actually won the election. That is the wrong thing. Then the court should so declare. And the third one you mentioned is if the court found out that the INEC was very right, INEC has complied with all the constitutional requirements. As they look at the three grounds, one that is qualified, has looked into the issue that there was no malpractice as alleged, and also discovered that he has secured the lawful majority vote that should make him to be declared the winner, including whether Abuja should be part of the consideration. When all that is calculated and done away with and agreed that there has been substantial compliance with the constitutional provision, the court will go ahead and validate INEC's pronouncement today. So we're expecting these three scenarios. You're already a lawyer. Amechi and my brother there, you guys understand what's up, what's going on in the court. You have analyzed it properly. So these three scenarios we play out today: either validate, invalidate, or declare a rerun, order a rerun for parties. And if order a rerun, who are those to participate? That again will be determined by the court.
Depending on what happens, or no matter what happens, this is only a court of first instance in the presidential election petition. There is still the right of each of these parties to appeal to the Supreme Court, which is why I think that there shouldn't be too much of beating of drums of war at this point in time, because there is another opportunity to test the law at the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. What happened, just before you come in, because the producer will cause a graphics representation of what exactly Imoni Amare has said to be shared right away. What next after this judgment? It's not the end of the day. There are steps to be taken. There are higher levels of appeal. The apex court may indeed come in here. And there you have it. Within 60 days, starting from today, September 6th, the Supreme Court would indeed deliver judgments on a possible appeal, and that includes 21 days that the litigants, the possible losers, may indeed want to exhaust before filing in a petition. You can speak more to this, Monday Obani.
Yes, whether at this court of first instance or even at the Supreme Court, there shouldn't be any room for us to destroy Nigeria. It's only an election. Election is where people choose and recruit their leaders. So if that recruitment process has taken place at the polling unit and the court now affirms, or invalidates, we should be able to abide with the decision of that court, whether Supreme or even court of first instance. So Nigeria should not be destroyed on the altar. There is still room for people to probably, participate in the electoral process. You know what makes this election of 2023 very interesting and exciting is that all along in our political history, there has always been two political parties that, people always, if it's not A, it must be B. But for the first time, this entrance of a third force, that came in, not giving any much room for any performance, not giving much expectation, and come and see the excitement. People really came out. People traveled all the way from Canada, UK to come and cast their votes and all that. So when you see all these activities in social media, people expressing one opinion or the other, please, I don't think that judiciary can be intimidated. Judiciary has always been very strong, so it is not meant to intimidate. It's just to create that excitement that has never happened in Nigerian political history, where a third force comes into a into the system and try to create some level of damage, to the existing political structure. So that excitement is there, and it follows even to the court. The proceedings were followed, and you see analysis and all that. And we didn't have advent of social media. You remember, all the previous social media hasn't come to the level it has come today. So when people make all those statements that no judiciary cannot be intimidated, and I don't think those who say all eyes on the judiciary was meant to intimidate judiciary. No, they are all saying that look, we have finished at the polling unit. Now that we have come to court, we are now looking at this very veritable institution that determines the final issue of this issue of electoral process to do justice. That's all. That's what they're saying. And I don't think they're trying to intimidate. No judiciary can be intimidated. No judge can be intimidated. That is my take on that. So it's going to be an exciting day, and our country will still remain. Whoever loses, whoever wins, all of us are Nigerians, and we must continue to maintain this country. Because if we are destroyed, if we are scattered, the entire African continent will be in a very big mess. So we must try to be together and continue. One day, whatever we desire, on the other side can happen. So let's not destroy the country. That's my take and advice.
Okay, you're seeing live visuals from the Court of Appeal in Abuja, where the presidential election petition court would any moment from now, the quietness of the whole Imoni, the way the attention,
the judges, the justices are likely to step in any time. Maybe we should just see if we could get a sound bite from the court itself. Let's see if we can hear anything from there. But it appears everyone is settled in and patiently waiting for the judges or the justices to step into the court, and hopefully proceedings will start in a short while. Let's go to that court
and see if we can hear one or two things. Yes. Some ambience noise, yes.
Yes, the litigants, some of them. See the presence of the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi and of course that of the PDP Atiku Abubakar. We do also shop will indeed find out in the matter.
And let's not forget Princess OJ of the APM. Princess OJ's case is one of the three that the court will be delivering judgment on. In fact, it's speculated that that case by Princess OJ of the Allied People's Movement might in fact just be the very first case that the justices will be dealing with, and thereafter move on to the other two cases.
It was the first to be concluded.
It was the first.
Just one point of objection.
That's right. So hopefully the justices should be stepping in any moment now. Utibe did tell us earlier on that they will be expected to take their seats, say, by 9:30 a.m. Nigerian time. And if that happens, that will be just a few minutes away.
So the visuals we are sharing now is inside the court premises. We also have signals outside the court premises. The Court of Appeal, indeed will share it soon with you. That is it. There you go. Indeed, that is where all eyes of Nigerians, and I can also say the whole world, is primed on. 5 justices of the Court of Appeal, where would they stand?
Where will the law stand?
Yes,
not the justices themselves, because the justices have to dispense justice according to the provisions of the law. And these two documents, the 1999 Constitution and the Electoral Act 2022, are the major instruments today that the honorable justices of the Court of Appeal will be depending on largely based on evidence that have been led by the petitioners and the respondents in the case. And of course,
you can refer to this as the Bible and the Quran.
The Bible, yes, of the law here in Nigeria, of the electoral process here in Nigeria. And these are the instruments that the justices, honorable justices, will be relying on today to deliver judgment in this case.
Imoni, I said where the justices will stand because there's a possibility that they could be split. There could be a majority judgment. In this instance, it could be 3, 4 of the justices staying on one position, and there could be a minority judgment where 1 or 2 could indeed decide to deviate from where the majority. But the last option is all the 5 justices
having a unanimous
agreement.
But wherever they stand, they will stand on the
position of law.
On the position of law.
Absolutely.
That's the point. That's why I said it's on the point of law. So that's what we are all looking forward to, and I'm very sure that Nigerians across the world are very, very interested in what the outcome is today. Like Mr. Ubani has said, Nigeria is our country. Nigeria as a sovereign entity will remain. Whatever happens, we must do everything we can to preserve the peace and tranquility of this nation, because at the end of the day, it is we who are the people of Nigeria.
Absolutely. Victor Gewa, let's bring you in as we await the commencement of the judgment of the Court of Appeal. Just painted a possible scenario about a possible split of the justices today, or they could all agree on all positions. Of course, the closest we got as far as election petition cases is concerned, in our history, at least in the advent of the Fourth Republic, was the 2007 judicial challenge of the outcome. Buhari was almost breaking his... Okay, the judges are here now.
Yeah, the judges are entering the court
Justices
now.
rather.
The justices of the Court of Appeal, all 5 of them are taking their seats now. So let's go over. Of course, the justices have to settle
almost
into their
like a
seats.
graveyard
Yes.
silence as they come in. Yeah.
Well, good morning, Learned Council, both Ina and Ottawa. You are welcome to this proceeding. As you are all aware, today we have reached the zenith of this proceeding. We are going to deliver the judgment on 3 petitions that were consolidated. Well, in the process, we may not read out the addresses of council. You know, they will be in the record. But we will read out our findings and resolutions, then the conclusion to the judgment. So, judgment is a bit lengthy, so we wait for your patience, so that we, in a few hours' time, we will be able to go through. Everybody can go. Thank you. May the Almighty God guide and lead all of us. Well, we'll start the assurances with petition number 3, so you call it off.
Petition number CA/PEPC/03/2023 between Mr. Peter Gregory Obi, Labour Party, for the petitioner, and Independent National Electoral Commission, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Senator Shetima Hashim, All Progressive Congress, APC, respondents.
With all due respect to the court, my name is Kashim Shetima, Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria, an independent.
My lords, the petitioners are not represented in courts.
Oh.
No. Okay.
Barrister Julius Abure, National Chairman, Labour Party.
They are representing
the second petitioner.
Okay. My lord, the second petitioner is represented in courts. Also, for the respondent,
may it please, my lord.
By who?
Abure.
Abure Julius. ABURE Julius. For the second petition of the law.
Yes, any other representation?
May it please, my lords, Mrs. May Abamuchi Umbu, INEC National Commissioner, Chair Legal Services for the first respondent.
My lords, my name is Kashim Shetima, representing the third respondent. I'm the third respondent.
So, my lord, the second petitioner is represented. The first respondent is also represented here in court. The third respondent is present in court. Other parties are absent.
Who is also in court? Second respondent is in court, yes?
Hello. My name is
respondent.
My name is Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, National Chairman, APC, representing the fourth respondent. Fourth respondent.
The fourth respondent is represented here in court, my lord. Other parties are absent. Thank you.
The list of council, they are a bit lengthy. So maybe you can just announce the appearances. The list is here. We record them after that.
Respect, my lords, I'm Dr. Levi Uzoku. I appear for the petitioners, my lords. Yes. Appearing with me are my brothers of the inner bar, starting with our Kalo SAN, Chukwu Chukwu, Dr. Mrs. Valeria Janet Azinge SAN, Rebecca Okoko SAN, Alex Ejesiem SAN, Peter Afuba SAN, and then members of the outer bar with us, 3 of them, starting with number 8, Chike Obi, Precious Uchendo, And finally, Igwekama Ubiora. Together, we appear for the petitioners, my lords.
You didn't appear with the iron eater today. The iron eater crusher.
He couldn't be accommodated to them.
Yes, first respondent.
If it pleases my lords, I am Sir Stephen Adehi. I appear with my learned friends of the inner bar, T.M. Inwa, SAN, Al-Hassan A. Umar, SAN, Suleiman Olawale Ibrahim, SAN, and our friends of the outer bar appearing with us are Nasara H. Auta, Esquire, Aminu Sadauki, Esquire, N.A. Atta, Esquire, Susan A. Imrosi, Esquire, Jamiu Aguru, Esquire, and Martins F. Epa. We all appear for the first respondent. Thank you very much, my lords.
Second and third respondent.
With profound humility to my noble lords, my name is A.A. Malik. My humble appearance is for the second and third respondents. And as my learned brothers of the inner bar, appearing with me are Babatunde Ogala, SAN, Dr. Remy Olatubura, SAN, and Mutalubi Ojo Adebayo, SAN. And we also have our colleagues on the outer bar, namely my Lord Emmanuel Uwadoka, Esquire, Yinka Ajeni Fuja, Esquire, Akintola Makinde, Esquire, Julius Ishola, Esquire, and last but not the least, Taiwo Lakanu, Esquire. Good for me, lords.
Yes.
Good morning, my lords. I am Chief Dr. Charles Uwensi Edosawa. I make a humble appearance for the fourth respondent. With me, sirs, are Chief Adede Akintola, SAN, Chief Afolabi Fashanu, SAN, Sam Ologun Richard, SAN, Solomon Moore, SAN, Abdul Muhammad Rafindadi, SAN. Lords, our learned friends of the altar bar are also here with us. And they are Omosaya Ubola, Esquire, Olayewaju Onigegewura Akinshola, Esquire, Bolaji Oyin, Esquire, is Huwaila Muhammad Ibrahim. Thank you very much. We're all here for the fourth respondent.
Protocol number 4.
Petition number CA/PEPC/04/2023 between Allied People's Movement petitioner and Independent National Electoral Commission, All Progressives Congress, Tinubu Bola Ahmed, Kashim Shettima, Kabir Masari.
May it please my lords, Mrs. May Ebamuche Mbu, INEC National Commissioner, Chair Legal Services, for the first respondent.
Petitioner is absent.
Petitioner is absent, my lord. First respondent is represented, my lord.
My lord, my name is Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, National Chairman, APC. For the first respondent, second respondent.
My lords, my name is Kashim Shettima. I am the third respondent. My lords, I am the fourth respondent. My name is Kashim Shettima.
My lord, the second respondent is represented, the third respondent is absent, the fourth respondent is present in court, and the fifth respondent is absent.
Yes, apparently.
With respect, my lords, my name is Andrew Malgu. Lord, I appear for the petitioner, and my learned friend of the outer bar, J.O. Olotu, appears with me.
Well, before this translation, please, after this, we submit a clean copy.
Yes, my lord, we have to do some changes in court here, and it is too late for us to do.
Okay.
Both to plan for it.
Yes.
May it please my lord, I am Sir Stephen Adeli. I appear with my learned friends of the inner bar, T.M. Inua, SAN, Al-Hassan A. Umar, SAN, Suleiman Olawale Ibrahim, SAN, and our friends of the outer bar, of the inner outer bar, Nasara H. Auta, Esquire, Aminu Sadauki, Esquire, N.A. Atta, Esquire, Susan Imorisi, Esquire, Jamiu Agoro, Esquire, and Martins F. Ekpa, Esquire.
We all appear for the first respondent. Yes, very grateful, my lord. Second respondent.
Please, your lordships. I'm Chief Dr. Charles Uwensi Edosa. I make a humble appearance for the second respondent. My learned friends, Chief Adeni Akintola, SAN, Chief Afolabi Fashanu, SAN, Sam Ologunrisha, Esquire, SAN, Solomon Umar, Esquire, SAN, Abu Muhammad Rafindadi, SAN, Omosaya Opola, Esquire, SAN. Sorry, my lord, it's my, that's my prayer for him, my lord. My prayer for you.
Yes, that's what I did.
Olayewaju Akinshola, Esquire. Bolaji Oyun, Esquire. And Miss Waila Muhammad Ibrahim. We're all here, sirs, for the second respondent. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Third and fourth.
With profound humility to my noble lords, my name is A. Malik. My humble appearance, my lords, is for the third and fourth respondents. My learned brothers of the Inaba, Babatunde Ogala, SAN, Dr. Remy Olatubura, SAN, and Mutalubi Ojo Adebayo, SAN, all appear with me. Together we have our colleagues appearing with us, namely Emmanuel Uwadoka, Esquire, Yinka Ajeni Fuja, Esquire, Akintola Makinde, Esquire, Julius Ishola, Esquire, Taiwo Lakanum, Esquire, and if it pleases my noble lords, may I respectfully add one last name.
Can only record what is on the list.
Sorry, madam.
Can only record what is on the list.
Most definitely. My lord, our appearance for the third and fourth respondents. Thank you, madam. Most respectfully, my lord.
Yes.
My name is Gabriel M. Ishon.
Why didn't you submit your own? What is here?
Submitted the list.
Yes.
My learned friends who appear with me are Ofure Rosella Iyere, Blessing.
Is it on that name? Is it on the list?
Yes, my lord. It's number 6 on our list.
Mention one long.
O.R. Iyere, my lord. Number 7, P.T. Orabere. That's fine. Last but not the least, number 8, Edward Ajaba Esquire. My lord, collectively, we respectfully appear for the 5th respondent.
Number 5.
Section number CA/PEPC/05/2023 between Abubakar Atiku, People's Democratic Party for the petitioners, and Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), Tinubu Bola Ahmed, and All Progressives Congress (APC).
Hello, my name is Umar Ilya Yamagun, Acting National Chairman, PDP, for the second petition.
May it please my lords, this is May Agamuchu Umbu, INEC National Commissioner, Chair Legal Services, for the first respondent.
Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, National Chairman, APC, third respondent.
Second petitioner is represented before the court, as well as the first and third respondent, my lords. Other parties are absent.
To profound respect to my noble lords, I am Chief Chris Uche. I appear for the petitioners, and with me are my learned brothers Silk, namely Eyitayo Plegede SN,
Yes.
Professor Mike Ozekome SN, Nella Anden Ewa Rabana SN. Lords, permit me with respect to replace absent number 5 with my brother Silk Joe Abraham SN. Then number 6, Professor Maxwell M. Gidado SN.
Yes.
7, Chief Godi Uche SN.
Yes.
8, A.K. Ajibade SN. And with us, my lords, our learned friends, Silas Joseph Ono Esquire, and Jude A. Daniel Esquire. Together, my lords, we appear for the petitioners. We are grateful, sirs.
Second respondent. Sorry, first.
May it please my lords, I am Sir Stephen Adehi. I appear with my learned friends, Senior Counsel, T.M. Ilua, SAN, Al-Hassan A. Umar, SAN, Suleiman Olawale Ibrahim, SAN, and my appearing with us are our learned colleagues, Nasara H. Auta, Esquire, Aminu Sadauki, Esquire, M.A. Atta, Esquire, Susan A. Imoisi, Esquire, Jamiu Aguru, Esquire, and Martins F. Epa, Esquire. We appear for the first respondent. Thank you. May it please, my lords.
Thank you.
profound humility to my noble lords. My name is A. Malik. I appear, my lord, for the second respondent. Honored brothers of the Silk, Babatunde Ogala, SAN, Dr. Remi Olatubura, SAN, and Mutalubi Ojo Adeba, SAN, all appear with me. And we have our other colleagues, Emmanuel Uwadoka, Esquire, Yinka Ajeni Fuja, Esquire, Akintola Makinde, Esquire, Julius Shola, Esquire, and lastly but not the least, Taiwo Lakanu, Esquire. Together, my lord, we appear for the second respondent. Go for it. My lords, for the third respondent, I am Charles Uwensi Edosawa. Yes, my lord, my learned friends, Chief Ademili Akintola, SAN, Chief Afolabi Fashanu, SAN, Sam Ologorisha, Esquire, SAN, Solomon Umar, Esquire, SAN, Abdul Muhammad Rafin Dadi, Esquire, SAN, and my learned friends of the Alta Party, Mr. Omosea Fokola, Mr. Olayewaju Akinshola, Mr. Bolaji Oyin, and Ms. Muhammad, right? That was the third respondent. What's this for them? Well, deliver the judgment, but you know that we all know the rules concerning consolidated matter. Each of the petitions so consolidated will maintain their individual identity, so we shall treat them as such. We shall begin with number 4. So we all remember that during the judiciary session, several motions were passed. So we shall begin with the consideration of this application before we proceed to the main petition. So in this petition, that's petition number 3 and number 4, sorry, the petitioner, Allied People's Movement,
participated in the presidential election conducted by the first respondent on the 25th of February 2023 by sponsoring a candidate, that's Ojay Princess Chichi, agreed by the declaration and return of the election, has validated its petition filed on the 20th day of May 2023, read this court at paragraph 31 of the petition to grant it the following reliefs. 1. That it may be determined that A. The third respondent was not qualified to contest as the presidential candidate of the second respondent as at 25th day of February 2023 when the presidential election was conducted by the first respondent in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having violated the provisions of Section 142 sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. B. A declaration that the return of the third respondent by the first respondent as the president-elect for the Federal Republic of Nigeria is null, void, and of no legal effect whatsoever. The third respondent having violated the provisions of Section 142 sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and the fourth respondent having violated the provisions of Section 35 of the Electoral Act 2022. C. The fourth respondent was not qualified to contest as the vice presidential candidate of the second respondent as at 26 February 2023 when the presidential election was conducted by the first respondent in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having violated the provisions of Section 35 of the Electoral Act 2022. D. The declaration returned the third respondent by the first respondent on 1st March 2023 as the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is invalid by reason of non-compliance with the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 and the Electoral Act 2022. A declaration that having regard to the joint ticket principle enshrined in Section 142(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, the withdrawal of the first respondent as the vice presidential candidate of the second respondent by operation of law amounted to automatic withdrawal and invalidation of the candidature of the third respondent as the presidential candidate of the second respondent for the presidential election conducted by the first respondent on the 26th day of February 2023. A declaration that arising from the invalidity of the third respondent nomination, the first respondent ought not to have included the name or the abbreviation of the name or the logo of the second respondent in the ballot papers and other election materials used by the first respondent for the conduct of presidential election held on 26th day of February 2023. The first respondent was not qualified to contest as the vice presidential candidate of the second respondent as at 25th February 2023 when the presidential election was conducted by the first respondent in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having violated the provisions of Section 35 of the Electoral Act 2022. An order nullifying and voiding all the votes scored by the third respondent in the presidential election conducted by the first respondent on 26 February 2023 in view of his non-qualification as a candidate of the second respondent. Upon the ground of prayer 4 above, an order nullifying and or setting aside the return of declaration of third respondent as winner of the election conducted by the first respondent for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the 26th day of February 2023, same having been made in violation of the provisions of Section 142(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 and Section 35 of the Electoral Act 2022. Finally, upon the ground of prayers 5 and 6 above, and in the absence of the third respondent's participation in the presidential election held on 26 February 2023, pursuant to Section 136 of 2 of the Electoral Act, an order declaring the candidate with the next highest number of votes as the winner of the election. The grounds of the petition as set out in paragraph 15 of the petition is as follows. The petitioner states that the ground upon which this petition is presented is that the third respondent was at the time of the election not qualified to contest the election. The respondents were duly served the petition and also responded by filing their replies. The first respondent replied to the petition was filed on 9th of April 2023. The second response reply to the petition was also filed on 9th of April 2023, while that of the third and fourth respondent was filed on 13th of April 2023. The fifth respondent also filed replies to the petition. On the 16th of April 2023, the petitioner then filed replies to the respective replies of the respondent's petition. The respondent filed a number of motions, all of which challenge the contents of the petition. These motions were duly heard during the hearing session and ruling reserved. The first motion was filed by the first respondent. Applicant here is in this motion was filed on the 6th of May, wherein it is sought the following relief. 1. An order striking out paragraphs 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, and 16 of the petition reply filed on 20th day of April 2023 in response to the first respondent's reply. 2. An order striking out paragraphs 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the petition reply filed on 20th of April 2023 in response to the first respondent's reply. And for such further orders as the Honorable Tribunal shall deem fit to make in the circumstance. We were asked to note that the grounds for the petition or for the application are as follows. They have been reproduced in the ruling and need not read them out. So the motion is supported by an affidavit of 4 paragraphs and a written address. The petitioner respondent then responded by filing counter affidavit of 7 paragraphs on 13th of May 2023. Same was accompanied by written address in opposition to the application. The arguments of counsel in respect of that application have been considered here in the ruling. A similar application was also filed by the second respondent on the 8th of May 2023, wherein the second respondent raised this court to grant the following relief. 1. An order of the Honorable Tribunal granting leave to the second respondent applicant to file and argue this application before or outside the hearing session in this petition. It will be noted that this court is sitting as the Court of Appeal, not as a tribunal. So an order of this Honorable Court striking out paragraphs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 sub 1, 2, 4, and 5. Paragraph 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 of Part D of the petitioner's reply and or the entire petition reply to the second respondent's reply to the petition for being an unnecessary repetition and or introduction of new facts unrelated to the second respondent's reply to the petition. 3. An order of the Honorable Court striking out in whole or part thereof of the witness statement on oath filed together with the petition reply to the petition for being irregular and in flagrant non-compliance with the relevant provisions of the first schedule of the Electoral Act 2022. So the grounds for that application have also been summarized in this document. Same thing with the submission for counsel. The third and fourth respondents also filed a motion on the 13th of May 2023, seeking the following reliefs. 1. An order citing out the entire reply filed by the petitioner on 20th April 2023, together with the accompanying witness statements on oath, list of witnesses to be relied on, and the list of additional documents. 2. Further, or in the alternative to prayer 1 above, an order citing out paragraphs 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, up to 21, of the petition reply under the heading Petition Replies to the third respondent's reply to the motion, filed on 20th April 2023, to the applicant's reply to the petition. And for such further orders as this Honorable Court may be to make in the circumstances. The grounds have also been referred to the ruling. We have also considered the submissions of counsel. Now, it is apparent that the first respondent's motion filed on the 6th of May 2023. The second respondent motion filed on the 8th of April 2023, and the third and fourth respondent motion filed on 13th May 2023 are all aimed at having certain paragraphs of the petition replies to the respective replies of the respondent's replies to the petition struck out. The common ground in all the applications is that the averments in the petitioner's reply have introduced new facts, new issues, facts, and or grounds to the petition. Furthermore, that some of the averments are rehashed or repetition of the averments in the petition file. That those averments in the petition replies to paragraph 16, subparagraph 1A and B of the first schedule to the Electoral Act 2022. The said paragraph to the Electoral Act stipulates that, I quote, if a person in his reply to the election petition raises new issues or facts in defense of his case, which the petition has not dealt with, the petitioner shall be entitled to file in the registry within 5 days from the receipt of the respondent's reply, the petitioner reply in answer to the new issues or facts, so that A, the petitioner shall not at this stage be entitled to bring in new facts, grounds, or prayers tending to amend or add to the contents of the petition filed by him, and B, the petitioner reply does not run counter to the provisions of paragraph 14.1. In my view, the provisions of paragraph 16.1 of the first schedule to the Electoral Act 2022 are clear, unequivocal, and unambiguous. It does not, therefore, require any technical rules of interpretation to understand or to be understood. From a holistic reading of that provision, it will be seen that it is meant to explain the purpose of a petitioner's reply to the respondent's reply. His purpose is to raise answers to the defense for any fact which must be specifically pleaded and which has the effect of destroying the respondent's defense or make it not maintainable. The bottom line is that a petitioner is permitted by the first schedule to the Electoral Act 2022 to file a reply while the respondent to the petition has in his reply raised new issues of fact in the petition, which fact the petitioner has not dealt with in the petition. However, in doing so, the petitioner reply shall not introduce new facts, grounds, or prayers tending to amend or add to the contents of the petition. I've cited the case of APC and PDP citations applied. It is therefore clear that paragraph 16.1 of the first schedule to the Electoral Act does not permit a petitioner in his reply to introduce or bring in any new issue or fact which ought to have been raised in the petition itself. In other words, a petitioner cannot, in the guise of a reply to a respondent's reply, introduce a new issue or fact which was never raised in his petition nor raised by the respondent. To do that will amount to amending or adding to the petition and also taking the respondent by surprise, because at that stage the respondent will not be in a position to react to such new issues or facts. He will therefore breach the respondent's fundamental right to fair hearing. Therefore, the petitioner is not permitted to repair or rehash his averments in the petition in such a way that it will amount to an amendment or restructuring or a reconstruction of the petition. See the case of Dingedi and Wamako citations supply. With the state of the law as stated above at the back of my mind, I have endeavored to scrutinize the pleadings in the respondent's respective replies to the petition. Vis-a-vis the specific paragraphs of the petitioner replies complaint of. I start with the first respondent complaint. The first respondent complaint is against paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15 of the petitioner reply. I have carefully studied those paragraphs of the petitioner reply. It is my view that paragraphs 1, 6, 7, 8, 12, and 14 of the petitioner reply to the first respondent reply are competent as they are proper replies to the first respondent's reply. However, paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 15 of the said petitioner replies are not competent, as they are either rehashed or facts pleaded in the petition, or they introduce and or add new facts to the petition. Being incompetent, they are hereby struck out. The complaint of the second respondent is against paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, sub 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 and 5, sorry. 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24 and 25 part D of the petition reply to the second respondent's reply to the petition. I have carefully considered both paragraphs in the light of paragraph 16(1)A and B of the first schedule to the Electoral Act 2020. It is settled law that where a respondent raises on his reply to the petition fresh or new issues, it will be necessary for the petitioner to file a reply to the respondent reply to the petition. At that stage, the petitioner may also file further written statements on oath of witnesses he may wish to call in rebuttal of the new issues raised by the respondent. This is because any failure by the petitioner to reply or answer to those new issues raised by the respondent will be deemed that the petitioner has considered to that raise the new issues. The cases of Idris and AMCC, Binjadi and Wamako were also cited. That being so, the written statements on oath of witnesses filed along with the petitioner reply to the respondent reply and proof of paragraphs set out accordingly set out. In my view, paragraphs 1, 2, the paragraph listed in the petitioner reply, second respondent reply to the petition are either referred to paragraphs in the petition or introduced or added new parts to the petition. They are incompetent and accordingly struck out. I am also of the view that paragraphs 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to 20 of the petition replies to third and fourth respondent reply to the petition the height of the requirements in the petition. They are in my view incompetent and accordingly struck out. This other motion filed by the first respondent on the 7th of May 2023 seeking the following relief. 1. An order of this Honorable Court striking out the petition for being incompetent and an abuse of court process. The grounds of filing the motion have been reduced. The motion is supported by 6 paragraphs affidavit because to by 1 give more detail the litigation secretary in the law firm of Bitco and Mahmoud solicitors to the first respondent applicant. It is also accompanied by a written address filed in support of the motion. In response, the petitioner filed a counter affidavit on the 14th of May 2023 consisting of 7 paragraphs proposed by 1 Carlo Kenneth Okorie, together secretary in the law firm of Mrs. O.M. Akoyo B. S.A.N. and partners. The written address was also filed along with the counter affidavit. I considered the arguments of counsel on this motion. The third and fourth respondents also filed a similar motion on 12th of May 2023. There in the third and fourth respondent prayed for an order of this honorable court striking out and or dismissing this petition for being incompetent, fundamentally defective, and vesting no jurisdiction on this honorable court to adjudicate therein. The grounds for the petition have been listed. In this motion, several grounds were raised. Now it is apparent that the sole ground of this petition is strength and the qualification of the second respondent. The issue of qualification issue of qualification or disqualification of the candidate to contest an election for the office of President of Nigeria is a constitutional one. That is why it is stipulated in section 134, subsection 1. Of the Electoral Act 2022 that an election may be questioned on any of the following grounds. A, the person whose election is questioned was, at the time of the election, not qualified to contest the election. The qualifications and or disqualifications of the candidate to contest an election for the office of President are stipulated in section 131 and 137 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. While the qualifications are ingrained in section 131, the disqualifications are ingrained in section 137 of section 1A(j) of the Constitution. It is apparent, therefore, that the issue of qualification of the candidate to contest an election could be a ground in an election petition, though it may also be ground to pre-election matter, where such issue of qualification or disqualification of candidate arises from the primary election of the party by virtue of section 285 of section 14 of the Constitution. Where the issue of qualification or disqualification arises before the election, it is an election, a pre-election matter, and an action on that issue must be instituted pursuant to section 285 of section 11 and 14 of the Constitution. It is noted that upon a quick and careful perusal of the pleadings and in the petition, the issue of disqualification of the self-respondent rests solely on the issue of the alleged invalid nomination of his running mate with the third respondent. The issue of invalid nomination is captured by paragraphs 18, 19, 20, and 21 of the petition. For proper understanding of the facts pleaded, those paragraphs are being produced. The second arm of that issue is captured in paragraph 22, 23, 24, and 25 of terms of the petition. Considering the facts pleaded above, it is clear that the appellant of disqualification for non-qualification non-qualification of the respondent is centered solely on the invalid or double nomination of the fourth respondent. However, it is a certain law that the issue of nomination of a candidate at an election is a pre-election matter. Therefore, the issue of qualification or disqualification can only be ventilated from the grounds enumerated in section 131 or 137 of the Constitution. That is why section 84, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act 2022 stipulates that a political party shall not impose nomination qualification or disqualification criteria, measures, or conditions on any aspirant or candidate for any election in its constitution, guidelines, or rules for nomination of candidates for election, except as prescribed under section 65, 66, 106, 107, 131, 137, 177, and 185 of the Constitution. 187. It therefore means that the conditions of qualification or disqualification are prescribed under section 131 and 137 in case of person contesting for office of president. That means that where it is alleged in an election petition that a person is or was not qualified to contest election to the office of President of Nigeria, as stipulated in section 134, subsection 1A of the Electoral Act 2020, it is section 131 and 137 of the Constitution of Nigeria that are applicable. See the cases of PDP and ANIC, Kaki and PDP, Ucha and Nwe, and Captain Idris, Shalawada and others, Yahya Bello and others, all citations for pride. That's why election has been conducted and the result declared. Such election cannot be questioned on grounds of qualification under section 131 and 137 of the Constitution in the case of a presidential election. This postulation is supported by section 134, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act, where it is stipulated that with respect to subsection 1A, the person is deemed to be qualified for an elective office, and his election shall not be questioned on grounds of qualification if, with respect to the particular election in question, he meets the applicable requirements of section 65, 106, 137, or 177 of the Constitution, and he is not, as may be applicable in breach of section 66, 107, 137, or 182 of the Constitution. As stated earlier, the applicable provisions are section 121 and 137 of the Constitution. It is clear from the plenitude of the pleadings in this petition that the facts grounding the petition's claim of disqualification or non-qualification of the third and fourth respondents is seen on double and invalid nomination of the first respondent. I had pointed out earlier in the course of this ruling that the issue of qualification or disqualification of a candidate at an election is strictly the requirement of the Constitution. That it was held in the case of Al-Hassan and another versus Ishaku and others that even supplied a court by virtue of the provisions of section 138 of 1A of the Electoral Act. The tribunal's power to decide whether a person is qualified to contest an election is restricted to establishing the requirements of section 177 and 182 of the Constitution against the adverse party. An election tribunal has no jurisdiction to inquire into the primaries of the political party. Close of court. It is apparent, therefore, that issues of nomination or sponsorship of candidates by political parties come under pre-election matters and should be disputed and determined before the conduct of the election. Christian Kasi and another versus Yari and others, Yella and others versus Abu. That being so, the ground of election petition questioning the election of person duly qualified to contest such election as required by the Constitution cannot be sustained, while it is predicated on nomination or sponsorship of such candidates. Therefore, a petitioner who relies on non-qualification of his opponent to nullify the election must bring the facts of such non-qualification within the ambit of section 131 and 137 of the 1999 Constitution. I have noted that the petitioner respondent sought to tie his complaint of non-qualification to section 142(1) of the 1999 Constitution. That provision stipulates as follows. I quote, in any election to which the foregoing provisions of this part of this chapter relate, the candidate for an election to the office of president shall not be deemed to be validly nominated unless he nominates another candidate as his associate from the same political party for his running for the office of president, who is to occupy the office of vice president, and that candidate shall be deemed to have been duly elected to the office of vice president if the candidate for election to the office of president who nominated him as such associate is duly elected as president in accordance with the provisions of aforesaid. I am of the view that the above cited provision of the Constitution does not create additional qualifications or disqualifications for a candidate contesting for the office of president of Nigeria. Furthermore, section 142 of the 1991 Constitution, read along with section 141 of the state Constitution, creates the office of president and vice president. Section 142(1) is a specific provision donating power to the president to nominate a person as his associate to occupy the office of the president. That's what subsection 2 of section 142 mandates, that the requirements of qualification and disqualification attaching to the occupier of seat of president also applies to the holder of the office of vice president. It is therefore my view that section 142, subsection 1 of the Constitution does not introduce the issue of nomination or sponsorship of vice president so as to enlarge the scope of qualifications or disqualifications applicable to the seat of president. There cannot therefore be a disqualifying factor of a candidate for the office of president outside those specified in section 131 and 137 of the Constitution. It can safely be said that those provisions have sufficiently and conclusively covered the series until there is an amendment to the Constitution. See the cases of IV, ADIA, and AD Federation, also PDP and ANI Super. As a follow-up to my findings above, I hold the firm view that the issue of nomination of sponsor of correspondence being a election matter ought to have been ventilated by the petitioner before the Federal High Court, as this court has no jurisdiction to delve into the matter. Even if this court has such jurisdiction, because of action being an relation matter is started back by virtue of section 405 of 9 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 amended. Having found as above, it is my view that the two motions filed by the first respondent and third and fourth respondent on 7 May 2023 and 12 May 2023 respectively have no merit. Accordingly, I find that the petition is have merit. Accordingly, I find that the petition is liable to be struck out for being incompetent. By a motion on notice filed on the 8th of May 2023, the second respondent, the applicant, sought the following relief. An order of this Honorable Tribunal granting leave to the second respondent, applicant, to bring and argue this application before or outside or during the pre-hearing session. 2. An order of this Honorable Tribunal striking out grounds 1 and 2 contained in paragraph 16 of the petition for being incompetent. 3. An order of the Honorable Tribunal striking out paragraph 17, 18, 19, 20 to 29 of the petition, which are predicated on the incompetent grounds 1 and 2 in paragraph 16 of the petition for being an abuse of court process. And order 4. An order of this Tribunal striking out release 1 to 7 of the petition for being incongruous, illogical, and ungrantable. And 5. An order of the Honorable Tribunal dismissing or otherwise striking out the petition for want of jurisdiction and on the ground that the petition does not disclose any reasonable course of action. Here's the ground for stated here. And I've considered the arguments of counsel which are summarized in this ruling. It will be seen. It will be seen that this application is premised on several grounds. The first is that the grounds of the petition are incompetent. This is premised on the erroneous argument of the second respondent of applicant that the grounds for the petition are as stated in paragraph 16 of the petition. The calculation of the petition will disclose that there is only one ground for the petition and is stated in paragraph 15 of the petition as follows. That your petitioner states that the ground upon which this petition is presented is that the third respondent was at the time of the election not qualified to contest the election. The arguments in paragraph 16 as unequivocal caption deal with the facts of the petition. This ground for the objection to the contents of this petition therefore lacks substance and it is accordingly discountenanced. The second ground for the objection is that the petition is an abuse of court process. It is premised on the fact that the petitioner's respondent has earlier instituted an action before the Federal High Court in suit number FHC for ABG for CS for 1,215-2022 between Allah People's Movement and INEC and 12 others on the same subject matter as in this petition against the first, second, third, and fourth respondents in this petition and others. It was however discussed in paragraph 3M of the joint affidavit filed by the petitioner in opposition to this application that the matter was not determined on the merits by the trial court, who referred the matter to the Court of Appeal for interpretation. That in any case, the matter had since lapsed in 180 days for determination by law, being a election matter. It is tried law that abuse of court or judicial process simply means the use of a court process mala fide or in bad faith to the annoyance of the opponent. One variety of it is the institution of multifarious actions between the same parties with regard to the same subject matter and same issue in the same or another court. A quick look at the originating summons in suit number FHC ABJCS 1275-2022 will show that same was instituted in the Federal High Court Abuja on 27 July 2022. Being a pre-election matter, ought to have been determined within 180 days, as required by Section 285, Subsection 10 of the 1999 Constitution. It therefore means that it lapsed by January 2023, about a month the election in question was conducted. This petition having been instituted on the 20th of March 2023, when suit number FSC was no more alive, does not qualify as an abuse of court process. This ground for this objection is also non-tenant. On whether this petition is covered by the Board of Exchequer, it was argued that the issues raised in this petition have been finally resolved by the Court of Appeal in Appeal number CS of ABJS of CS of 08 of 2023. Issue exception arises when the issue has been decided upon to finality by a court of competent jurisdiction. In other words, once an issue has been raised and distinctly determined between the parties, another party can be allowed to fight that issue all over again. The same issue cannot be raised by other parties again in the same or subsequent proceedings except in special circumstances. For issue exception to apply, the following conditions must be satisfied. A, the question must have decided, the same question must have been decided in both proceedings. B, the decision which creates the exception must be final, and the parties to the judicial decision or their previous to the proceedings in which the exception is raised must be the same. To determine whether the above three elements exist, the court will closely examine the reasons for the judgment and other relevant facts that were actually in issue in the proceedings. In the cases of Oyekola and others versus Amudu, OSBM Limited versus Nitel Company Nigeria Limited, and Tasuti Retired versus Federal Power Nigeria Substitution Supply. I have studied the case sought to be relied on as if possible in this case. It is apparent that the parties in that case are not the same as in the instant petition. The issues, though the same, were not resolved to finality in the previous case. The action was struck out on ground of lack of local standard by the lower court, which this court affirmed on appeal. Thus, the objection on that ground is also discontinued. On whether the question is started back, I had held in the earlier motion filed by the first respondent on 7th May 2023 and third fourth respondent's motion filed on 12th May 2023, which were taken together. This petition, which is famous on the nomination responsibility of the fourth respondent, is a pre-election matter. That being a pre-election matter, it ought to have been inputted and ventilated by the petitioner before the Federal High Court within 14 days from the date of occurrence of the event or action complaint of. That not having been done, the course of action in this position stands barred by virtue of Section 2859 of the 1992 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. On the issue of local standing, I have also held in the previous motion filed on 7/5/23 and 12/5/23 that issues of nomination or sponsorship were handled by political parties for an election coming under pre-election matter. It is settled that the issue of nomination was handled by substitution is purely a pre-election matter. The only person with the local standing to challenge the nomination is an aspirant who participated in the process of such nomination. In other words, apart from an aspirant who took part in the primary election, no other person is authorized to challenge such nomination by a political party for an election. Such process of challenging the nomination is sanctioned by Section 84, Subsection 14 of the Electoral Act and 285, Section 14 of the Constitution. Fishin Kafi and another Aziz Ayari and Al-Hassan another and Ishaku. It therefore follows that the course of action in this petition, which is rooted in the nomination or sponsor of the fourth respondent, is a pre-election matter. Being a pre-election matter, the petitioner herein has no local standing to challenge or question such nomination or sponsorship of the fourth respondent by the second respondent. Thus, in People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Independent National Electoral Commission and others, and reported decision of the Supreme Court, delivered on 26th day of May 2022 in SC.CV of 501 for 2022, heard the matter has been reported, but I have not been able to avail myself of the report. Then at the Supreme Court held at the 71 the third one, like 116 as follows. Court, the provision does not make the filing of pre-election matters by political parties and all comers affair. It is not the purpose of the provision that the floodgate of pre-election litigation be open to political parties who will hide under it to challenge the actions or inaction of rival political parties under the guise of challenging the decision or activities of INEC. The application of Section 285, Section 14C of the Constitution does not extend to a political party poaching into the affairs of another. The position of the law has always been that no political party can challenge the nomination of the candidate of another political party. No matter how pained or disgruntled the political party is with the way and manner another political party is conducting or has conducted its affairs concerning its nomination of its candidate for any position, it must keep mum and remain an onlooker, for it lacks the local standing to challenge such nomination in court, close of court. It is clear, therefore, that a political party such as the petition is here only has the local standing to file a pre-election matter when the situation affects it or its candidate by virtue of Section 285, Section 14C of the 1999 Constitution. That being so, as in the instant petition, where the ground of the petition is rooted on the nomination or sponsorship of the candidate of another political party, this petitioner will have no local standing to institute the action, be it in the Federal High Court or an election tribunal. For that reason, it is my view that the course of action in this petition being on the nomination and sponsorship of the third and fourth respondent by the second respondent applicant, petition is incompetent for lack of local standing when the petition institutes the action. It is also liable to be struck out for being incompetent. The second respondent applicant also contended that the petition is not properly constituted as the candidate sponsored by the petitioner has not been joined as co-petitioner in the petition. The short answer to that is that Section 133, Section 1B of the Electoral Act 2022 entitles a petition as a political party to institute an election petition. The applicant has not referred us to any provision of the Electoral Act or any authority that mandates the political party to file an election petition only when the candidate has been joined as a co-petitioner. It is true that it is proper for the candidate of the party to be so joined, but there is no law that compels the political party to join its candidate in the petition. After all, the purpose of such gender is so that the candidate can be bound by any judgment or order of the court or tribunal, but any non-gender would not invalidate the petition. This is particularly so when Section 133, Section 1 of the Electoral Act stipulates as follows. An election petition may be presented by one or more of the following persons: A, the candidate in an election, or B, a political party which participated in the election. By the use of the disjunctive word "or," it means that an election petition may be filed by the candidate alone, or the political party alone, or both of them. The objection on this ground is also discontinued. By another motion filed on the 16th of May 2023, the fifth respondent, Kabir Masari, prayed this court to grant him the following relief. 1. An order of district court dismissing this petition in its entirety for one of jurisdiction. 2. An order striking out the name of the fifth respondent applicant from this petition for non-disclosure of any reasonable course of action against him. And in fact, other orders at this honorable court may deem fit to make in the circumstances. The grounds for the application have been stated. Have also considered the submissions of counsel. Now, Section 133. Section 133 of the Electoral Act defines persons who are necessary parties in an election petition. Generally, necessary respondents in an election petition are the persons whose election or return is complained of and the electoral body that conducted the election. See Section 133, Section 2 and 3 of the Electoral Act 2022. Those are what are termed statutory respondents. It should be remembered that election petitions are sui generis, and its procedure is strictly regulated by statute. That's why a person does not fall within the category of statutory respondents. They are not the necessary party in an election petition. See the cases of Agbere and Nimra, Buhari and Yusuf, TGP. That's in Waziri, what is Gaidam. The Supreme Court held a court. From the above, I have no difficulty in going along with the submissions of the respective counsel for the respondent that Section 137, sub 2 and 3 of the Electoral 2020 has no room for the gender of the state respondent who neither won the election nor performed any role as electoral officer or agent of the third respondent in the election petition, challenging the result of such an election. And even more, this was claimed against the said fifth respondent, and indeed, he had nothing to gain or lose in the petition of the close of court. Indeed, a holistic review of the facts of this petition does not disclose any complaint against the fifth respondent. The only fact that relates to the fifth respondent relevant to the petition is the act of withdrawal of his candidacy as the running mate of the third respondent. That is an act that occurred within the election period, therefore cannot amount to any act done by the fifth respondent at the election. It cannot therefore ground any complaint by the petitioner against the fifth respondent in an election petition. It may be relevant in a election matter, but not in an election petition. It is therefore my finding that there is no any claim from the fifth respondent. In other words, the relief sought in the petition will not in any way affect the fifth respondent, as he did not participate in the petition either as a candidate or agent of the second respondent, and no declaration was made in his favor by the fifth respondent. In that respect, I hold that the rejection of the fifth respondent on this ground has merit. Suddenly, I order that the name of the fifth respondent is struck out of this petition. These are the rulings in respect of the petition number 4. I will now go to the main petition itself. So, after the pre-hearing session, hearing on the petition opened and closed on the 21st of June 2023. The petitioner called one witness and closed his case. None of the respondents called any witness, but tendered some documents from the bar, and the petition was adjourned for adoption of written addresses. Parties then filed on written addresses as directed by this court, and same were adopted on the 14th of July 2023. The matter was then adjourned for judgment. The first respondent's written address was filed on the 30th of June 2023. Therein, 4 issues were raised for examination as follows. One, whether considering the facts of the petition and evidence laid therein, the petitioner has the lawful standing to question the nomination of the first respondent as a ground of challenging qualification and time of the third respondent as the winner of the presidential election of 26 February 2023. 2. Whether having regard to the facts pleaded and evidence laid therein, vis-a-vis the provision of Section 134 of Section 3 of the Electoral Act 2022, can the issue of validity of the nomination of the first respondent as the vice president candidate of second respondent is validly raised as a ground before this honorable court to question or challenge the qualification and term of the third respondent as the winner of the presidential election of 26 February 2023. Number 3. If the answer to those two is in the affirmative, whether having regard to the facts pleaded, the nomination of the first respondent as the vice president candidate of the second respondent is void, as to render the third respondent not qualified to contest the presidential election of 26 February 2023. 4. Whether considering the relief sought as per the petition accrues no utilitarian benefit to the petitioner, this petition not an abuse of court process. Well, to save time, all the other respondents filed briefs and raised issues. These issues have been introduced in this judgment, including the issue raised by the Now, it is apparent from the advancements in the petition, the oral and documentary evidence, and the submissions of counsel that this petition is grounded on the disqualification of the third respondent to have contested the presidential election of 25th February 2023. This is evident in paragraph 15 of the petition, wherein the petitioner pleaded that, I had read it earlier, this is further explained as emanating from the non-qualification of the first respondent to have contested the election as the vice president candidate of the second respondent. It is specifically pleaded in paragraph 17 of the petition as follows. Your petitioner states that the fourth respondent was not qualified to contest, to jointly contest with the third respondent for the presidential election held on 25th February 2023, having been purportedly nominated by the second respondent as its candidate for more than one office. The specific reasons for questioning the qualification of third respondent have been pleaded in paragraphs 16.1 and 2 of the petition as follows. Those paragraphs have been reproduced. If you get the judgment, you will see there. So a combined reading of paragraph 15, 16, and 17 of the petition, coupled with the particulars thereof, show clearly that the petition is premised on non-qualification of the fourth respondent. I find it necessary to state that the grounds for questioning the return at an election are stipulated in section 135 of section 1 of the Electoral Act. That has been produced earlier. It is the ground stipulated in section 134(1)(a). That they are not qualified to have contested the state presidential election. I consider paragraphs 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, and 20 of the petition as relevant for determination of the petition. Which paragraphs have been reproduced in this judgment? And the replies of the respondent. What appears from the complaint of the petitioner is that the fourth respondent was still a candidate of the second respondent for Borno's Central Senatorial District, was nominated and did accept to be the vice president candidate of the second respondent. That this act violated the provision of section 35 of the Electoral Act 2022 as it amounted to his double nomination. That in the circumstances, his nomination as an associate of the second respondent for the presidential election is void. That the result is that the third respondent was disqualified from contesting the election because he did not have a validly nominated running mate at the time of the election. The petitioner relied on section 131 and 142(1) of the 1999 Constitution for his postulation. Section 131 and 142 sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended stipulated as follows. A person shall be qualified for election to the office of president if A, he is a citizen of Nigeria by birth, B, he has attained the age of 40 years, C, he is a member of a political party and is sponsored by that political party, and D, he has been educated up to at least full certificate level or its equivalent. 142(1). In any election to which the foregoing provision of this part shall not be deemed to be validly nominated unless he nominates another candidate as his associate from the same political party for his running mate for the office of president, who is to occupy the office of vice president, and that candidate shall be deemed to have been duly elected to the office of vice president if the candidate is for election to the office of president who nominated him as such associate is duly elected as president in accordance with the provisions aforesaid. The general principles of interpretation of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, is that mere technical rules of interpretation of statutes are to some extent be avoided in a way as not to defeat the principles of government. Thus, where the words used are clear and unambiguous, a literal interpretation should be applied. In the interpretation, therefore, the provisions of the Constitution are to be accorded holistic interpretation so as to avoid ambiguity and arrive at the true intention of the legislature. The court must limit itself to the words used in the Constitution without resort to any external aid or materials. See the cases of Sani and President Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ahmadi and Anik, and Agi and PDP and others. Thus, in Wike Ezonwo Nwesom, Honorable Dr. Dakuku, Adolf Peterside and others, the Supreme Court observed that, I quote, the principle of construction of the Constitution to the effect that a Constitution is a living document, not just a statute, providing a framework for the governance of a country, not only for the present, but for the generations yet unborn. It was held that in construing the Constitution, undue regard must not be paid to merely technical rules, because in doing so, the objects of the provisions as well as the intention of the framers of the Constitution will be frustrated. Courts have always been encouraged to adopt a broad and liberal spirit in interpreting the provisions of the Constitution, while constantly bearing in mind the object which such provisions were made to serve. Close of quote. That being so, where the Constitution has stipulated the qualifications to be attained by a person contesting or seeking to contest for any elective office created by the Constitution, the courts cannot create or import into the Constitution any other qualifying or disqualifying factor. This has been the position of the Supreme Court and dutifully followed by this court. It has therefore been held that qualification or disqualification of candidates to contest election is exclusively determined within the context or scope of the Constitution, and that nothing can be added to it. In other words, the Constitution, being the ground norm, is superior to any other law, including the Electoral Act. Therefore, where the Constitution has qualified a person or candidate to contest an election, no other law except the Constitution itself can disqualify him. The petitioner, in this case, has premised his complaint of non-qualification or disqualification of the third and fourth respondents as the president and vice presidential candidates of the second respondent on the issue of invalid nomination of the fourth respondent. That the fourth respondent, while still the senatorial candidate of the second respondent for the Borno Central District, allows himself to be nominated as the vice presidential candidate of the second respondent for the same election. In our rulings earlier delivered on the motions and preliminary objections, we had ruled that the petition grounded solely on the issue of invalid nomination or improper nomination is not a cognizable ground of disqualification under the Constitution. In other words, the claim in the petition that the third respondent was not qualified to contest the presidential election because he nominated an associate whose nomination was invalid does not flow from any ground of disqualification of a candidate to the office of president as stipulated in section 131 and 137 of the 1999 Constitution. See the cases of Balewa and Muazu and Faleke and Anik, Tazu versus Yorea. Then in Shinkafi versus Yari, the Supreme Court held that the Supreme Court has listed in section 182, section 182 very exhaustively all the issues that can qualify a person from contesting the office of governor of a state. From the record of this court, the facts have not disclosed any evidence to show that the first respondent was not qualified to contest elections into the office of governor of Zamfara State. It is my view that once a candidate sponsored by his political party has satisfied the provisions set out in section 1 of the Constitution and is not disqualified under section 1 of section 1 thereof, he is qualified to stand election to the office of governor of the state. No other law can disqualify him. This authority can apply mutandis to section 1831 and 137 of the Electoral Act. It has not been contended by the petitioner that either the third or fourth respondent is trammeled by the provisions of section 131 or 137 of the 1999 Constitution. The complaint of the petitioner rooted on nomination and suspension of third and fourth respondent will find accommodation in a pre-election dispute which the petitioner cannot even pursue, not being a member of the second respondent. See section 84, section 14 of the Electoral Act 2022 and 285, 14 of the Constitution. While I'm tempted to put an end to this petition at this stage, but realizing that this court is not the final court on the matter, I'm concerned to look at the merit of the petition. As pointed out earlier in the course of this judgment, a complaint of the petitioner in this petition is that the third respondent was at the time of the presidential election held on 25th February 2022 not qualified to contest the election. This is because, according to the petitioner, the fourth respondent was not qualified to run on a joint ticket with him, that third respondent, as the fourth respondent nomination was invalid for double nomination, which violates section 65 of the Electoral Act 2022. As stated earlier, the petition contended that the fourth respondent was a candidate of the second respondent for the Borno Central District when the third respondent nominated him as his vice presidential candidate on the 14th July 2022. In other words, that at the time the fourth respondent was nominated, he had accepted the nomination as the vice presidential candidate of the second respondent. He was still a validly nominated central candidate of the second respondent for Borno Central District. The petitioner then contended that the second respondent had earlier submitted the name of the third respondent together with that of the fifth respondent to earn it as his presidential and vice presidential candidate for the 25th February 2020 election. However, that before the date of the election, the fifth respondent withdrew his candidature as the running mate of the third respondent on the 24th June 2023, and the name of the fourth respondent was then submitted to earn it, that fifth respondent, on the 15th July 2022. That the second respondent did not conduct any fresh primary election for the purpose of picking another running mate for the third respondent after the withdrawal of the fifth respondent. The respondent considered that the fourth respondent was ab initio the central candidate of second respondent for Borno Central District. However, that on the 6th July 2022, the fourth respondent via a letter dated the same date notified his political party, that second respondent, of his withdrawal from the central candidature. That upon receipt of the fourth respondent letter, the second respondent immediately notified ANEC, and which notification letter was received on the 13th July 2022. That the said letter also notified the first respondent of his intention to conduct a fresh primary election for the replacement of the first respondent following his withdrawal as a central candidate. That it was until 14th July 2022 that the first respondent was nominated as the third respondent associate for the presidential election of 25th February 2023. The fifth respondent notice of withdrawal as a candidate is in evidence as Exhibit PA2, while the notice of withdrawal and letter of voluntary withdrawal of the fourth respondent are in evidence as Exhibits PA3 and PA4 respectively. It will appear that the petitioner is the view that the fourth respondent was still the central candidate of the second respondent as at the 14th of July 2022, when the fourth respondent was nominated as the vice presidential candidate of the second respondent. However, the respondent contended the issue of alleged double nomination of fourth respondent has been determined finally by the Supreme Court in People's Democratic Party, PDP versus ANEC, that in the circumstances of the said judgment, the Supreme Court constitutes estoppel parem judicata and binding on the parties to this in this petition. Now, for a judgment to constitute issue estoppel, the conditions I had earlier stated in the ruling. So the three elements must be present and coexist for a plea of estoppel parem judicata to apply. See the cases of Ito and Epe and others, Oshoboja versus Amida and others, and Alexandra and others versus Lone Star Drilling Company Limited, all citation supplied. It is obvious that the judgment sought to be relied on for the plea of estoppel is that of the Supreme Court, the highest and final court in this country. There is no doubt that the decision was final, and the issue that was determined by the Supreme Court is the same as in the present petition, with whether the fourth respondent breached Section 35 of the Electoral Act but by allowing himself to be nominated in more than one constituency. The petitioner has, however, argued that the issue decided by the Supreme Court was merely on the local standing of the PDP to question the nomination of the fourth respondent, the candidate of the APC, a different political party. That may well be so, but it is clear from the judgment, that's Exhibit X1, that the Supreme Court pronounced on the substantive issue of double nomination. Though Joro JSC, who delivered the lead judgment, declined to exercise the powers of the Supreme Court under Section 22 of the Supreme Court Act to pronounce on the merit of the case, the other laws of the Supreme Court proceeded to do so. It is certain law that a contradictory or concurrent judgment has equal weight as the lead judgment. It is part of the lead judgment and therefore has the same force and binding effect. The mere fact that a concurring or contributed judgment contains what is not in the lead judgment will not whittle down its binding effect. That's in Olu Sherba and others versus Abdurrahim. My Lord Fadi JSC said, I quote, the concurrent judgment has equal weight with or as a lead judgment. A concurrent judgment complements, edifies, and adds to the lead judgment when the justice adds to its certain aspects which the writer of the lead judgment did not remember to deal with. Insofar as a concurrent judgment performs same or all the above functions, it has equal force with or as the lead judgment, insofar as the principles of stare decisis are concerned. Now, it is apparent that the parties in Exhibit X1, PDP and ANIC, and other supra are not the same as in the present petition. The earlier decision, though, involved the first, second, and fourth respondents. The present petitioner was not a party in that case. That is why it was argued by the petitioner herein that Exhibit X1 cannot operate as to stop it from litigating the issue of dominant nomination of the fourth respondent. The respondents have responded that the judgment in PDP and ANIC Exhibit X1 is a judgment in rem as opposed to judgment in personam. In law, a judgment in personam is a judgment against persons who are parties or privy to the particular suit or proceeding alone. It is referred to as judgment inter partes. It is a judgment binding on the parties to the action alone. A judgment in rem, on the other hand, is a judgment that determines the status of a person or thing as distinct from the particular interest of a party to the litigation. It is referred to as judgment contra mundum, binding on the whole world. It is therefore binding not only on the parties to the dispute but even non-parties. Therefore, once the status of a person or thing has been pronounced upon by a court of competent jurisdiction, no person is permitted to assert the contrary of what the court has decided. See Black's Law Dictionary, 11th edition at page 1008. Demishola vs. Bolarinwa, Yanati Petrochemical Limited and EFCC. Then Ladi Jobi and others versus Oguntai and others, partition supply. It is no doubt that the judgment matter in PDP and ANIC others X1 was in respect of the alleged double nomination of the first respondent as the vice president candidate of the second respondent in the 25th February 2026 presidential election. That is the same issue raised in this petition as grounding the disqualification of the third and fourth respondent in this petition. Pronouncing on the issue in this case, in the contradictory judgment, my Lord Okoro JSC, who presided on the panel of the Supreme Court, held as follows, I quote, there is no doubt that the fourth respondent was at a stage nominated as a candidate representing Borno Central District, but upon being muted, he would pair with the third respondent as vice presidential candidate of second respondent, All Progressive Congress, APC, in the 25th February 2023 general election. He withdrew his candidature for the Senate before taking up the position of vice presidential candidate. Documents in the record attest to this fact. These are APC 1, APC 2, which were made on the 6th and 10th of July 2022 respectively, close of court. After considering those documents, His Lordship concluded at page 7 of the judgment that, quote, it is crystal clear that the two exhibits alluded to above, before the respondent did the needful by resigning his position of Senator candidate for Borno Central District since 6 July 2022, before being nominated by the third respondent to run alongside him as vice presidential candidate of All Progressive Congress, close of court. My Lord Okoro went on to, after citing section 31 of the Electoral Act 2022, held at page 8 of his contributory judgment at the court. The above provision of the Electoral Act 2022 was duly complied with by the respondent. It is my well-considered opinion that as at the 6th of July 2022, having withdrawn his nomination and personally served him on the second respondent of the withdrawal of nomination on 6 July 2022, the fourth respondent was no longer a candidate for the Borno Central District election, and his subsequent nomination as vice presidential candidate of the second respondent for the presidential election was not multiple nomination, as there was no longer a nomination for the fourth respondent since his withdrawal on the 6th of July 2022. I've also cited the elaborate contribution of His Lordship against JSC. So I have endeavored to quote extensively the dicta of the laws of the Supreme Court in PDP and INEC Supra in order to show that the issue of double or even multiple nomination of the fourth respondent as the central candidate and vice presidential candidate of second respondent in the 25th February 2022 general election has been settled to finality. It is a judgment in rem, therefore binding on the parties to this petition and in fact the entire world, including this court. Being the judgment of the final court of the land, or this land, this Supreme Court, no person is permitted to again raise and litigate on it in any other action or proceeding. It is therefore settled and remains settled that this petition, which questions the qualifications and seeks to disqualify the third and fourth respondents from contesting and occupying the seat of President and Vice President of Nigeria on ground of double or multiple nomination of the first respondent and Vice President candidate of the second respondent on ground of double or multiple nomination of fourth respondent has no substance. I only wish to add that Section 35 of the Electoral Act is targeted at the candidate and not the political party. That is why it uses the term a candidate and normally allows himself to be nominated by more than one political party or more than one constituency. Thus, to prove that the candidate knowingly allows himself to be so nominated, both the intent and actual acts of nomination, that is, the mens rea and actus reus of the act prohibited, must be proved, the stipulation in the section being a penal provision. In the instant case, neither the intent nor the fact of the first respondent to allow himself to be so nominated was established. That's why His Lordship Ogumi JSC, in his contributory judgment in Exhibit X1, held as follows, I quote, by Section 31 of the Electoral Act, the fourth respondent, Shetima, was obliged to submit a notice of withdrawal in writing to his party, which he did, and then his party is to deliver that notice to the Commission not later than 90 days to the election. In view of the above stated position of the law on this issue and the fact of this case, there exists no animus or display of intention by the fourth respondent to stand as the nominated candidate of the second respondent for the vice presidential position and also the senator representing Borno Central District in the general election of 26 February 2023. There cannot be any other interpretation in the circumstances unless there is clear intention to knowingly stand as a candidate for two elective posts in the same election cycle. Jim JSC also contributed as follows, quote, the manifest intention to relinquish the earlier nomination to pave way for the nomination of another person to replace him as the party's central candidate cannot be overlooked or disregarded. To simply isolate the assumed or purported short-lived coexistence of the two nominations for treatment as multiple nominations without regard to the obvious intention of the first respondent not to be the party's candidate in elections in two constituencies is against the legislative intent of Section 35 of the Electoral Act 2022. The sequence of the occurrence of the events is not what determines the existence of multiple nominations. it is the intention, design, or purpose to hold two or more nominations as candidates for election that shows that the person so nominated knowingly did so. The second respondent did not intend that the first respondent should be candidate for Borno Central election and is vice presidential candidate for the presidential election, and the first respondent did not understand or know that he was so nominated. The word knowingly in section 35 of the Electoral Act must be interpreted broadly to include all its literal meanings. Barton's Legal Thesaurus, 4th edition by William C. Barton at page 356. It is defined to include advisedly, deliberately, designedly, intentionally, learnedly, pointedly, purposefully, with knowledge, etc. It is clear to me, therefore, that from the oral and documentary evidence adduced by the parties on this petition, the intention and fact of knowingly allowing himself to be nominated in more than one constituency, as alleged by the petitioner against the first respondent, has not been established. In other words, both the mens rea and actus reus of the act prohibited by section 35 of the Electoral Act 2020 were not established. One other aspect alleged by the petitioner on its claim of invalid nomination of the third and fourth respondent is that the second respondent did not comply with section 33 of the Electoral Act in the nomination of the first respondent as vice presidential candidate. That after the withdrawal of the fifth respondent, the second respondent should have conducted a fresh primary election within 14 days for the purpose of nominating a new vice presidential candidate. Now, section 33 of the Electoral Act stipulates that a political party shall not be allowed to change or substitute this candidate whose name has been submitted under section 29 of this Act, except in the case of death or withdrawal by a candidate, provided that in the case of such withdrawal or death of a candidate, the political party affected shall, within 14 days of the occurrence of the event, hold a fresh primary election to produce and submit a fresh candidate to the Commission for the election concerned. The interpretation of this provision does not, in my view, cause any difficulty as to require the application of any technical rule of construction. Therefore, a literal interpretation will suffice. It therefore means that where a political party has submitted the name of a candidate pursuant to section 29 of the Electoral Act Supra, it cannot be allowed to substitute or change that candidate except